Ate said cheeseburger, and we will destroy them, dude, live on stream for
He
YouTube.
knows. He knows. A cheeseburger in the bush now is a.
Dude, a good cheeseburger is about $15. 3 cheeseburgers a day at $15, dude, that's starting to rack up in costs.
A cheeseburger in the bush is worth 4 cheeseburgers
in the ass
tomorrow. Yes.
That's right.
He stole my fucking cheeseburger, dude. Okay.
Welcome to the live stream, everybody. We're here to talk about things, spooky things, regrettable things even. What happened on the moon, you guys think? Was there people?
It's cheeseburger up there.
A cheeseburger, something that's made of cheeseburgers.
That's where my cheeseburger went, dude.
Before we get into any of that nonsense.
Fuck. Alright.
Let's talk about the state of reality. The state of the fucking union here, dude. Why do I be watching a prison documentary from like the 60s? And they're talking about how every once in a while we have to have a lockdown in here where only the essential workers are allowed out. Only the people who work the kitchen, or this, or that. The essential workers are allowed out. Everyone's locked in. I'm sitting here watching this prison documentary from the 60s. I'm like, oh! That's where they got the idea, huh?
Instead of stim checks, they get cheeseburgers sent to their, they get no stim checks in prison. You just get a little bit of pudding, extra pudding.
That's true. That's true.
Keeps everybody happy.
So I can't help but think a lot of this COVID stuff. I know I'm maybe a little late to the party on all this, but a lot of this COVID stuff is like right out of prison manuals. And that's like the society we live in today. You know how like back in the day, I'm watching all these old documentaries, and it's all about like a focus on rehab. How do we rehab criminals? But now we just take it as a given. You can't rehab them. All you can do is make them worse. Which, in turn, justifies the entire system, the entire private industry of prisons that we live in. And you know, the most insidious prison is the one where you can't see the bars, where you built it yourself with your own brain hole.
Yeah, the 8 hours a day prison that you can't go too far away from.
Not just that, every single thing, all of it, without fail.
Right.
I don't know. And that's when I get into like Gnosticism and stuff, and it's like we are the demiurge, like we are the demons that create this material prison that we're trying to escape from. Yep, it's true.
What about the lobotomy? Where is that? Is that translated into anything? Is it just like?
I'm just saying, dude, don't drink the fluoride, right? Don't fucking take the SSRIs.
Yeah.
Right.
They can't. Yeah, they have a new lobotomy, but you pay for your own lobotomy.
Yeah, now you just lobotomize yourself by sitting there jerking off all day, like
prescription.
Easy.
Yeah, it's prescription service lobotomy.
And if you take it off SSRIs, you'll lobotomize yourself and never have to jerk off again, dude. Because that shit will never work. I read a quote recently from Mila Ripa, Sherpa poet. AD 1040 to 1123. What appears as a monster, what is called a monster, what is recognized as a monster, exists within a human being himself and disappears with him. There's a book about the Yeti. Does that debunk the Yeti? I don't know. Love that guy though.
Definitely debunks Bigfoot.
Yeah.
When I die, Bigfoot goes. Nobody.
Yeah, I'm taking it with me, dude. I'm not going down without taking that bastard with me.
Taking the cheeseburger with me.
Yeah. I'm not joking. Anyway.
Crap. What am I doing? I somehow got the Fifth Element playing on YouTube. There we go.
Should have listened to my OST, but whatever.
To hear your Fifth Element fucking OC, your fanfic?
I wrote it.
That's what the world needed.
Yeah.
It's better than the movie.
I directed it. I orchestrated it myself.
I made the Fifth Element. They stole it from me. Hollywood stole the Fifth Element from me and put in a bunch of weird aliens that I don't like.
Yeah, she's a tranny, but that's
all right. Everyone is, dude. It's 2023. Get used to it. Get used to it, homie. So, Do we have anything else to talk about? I feel like current events are just a wash from now on, dude. This thing that happened today, the thing you'll forget about in 4 days, dude, when some other stupid psyop bullshit hits. Right? There's nothing to talk about, right? Stop me if I'm wrong.
I don't even pay attention, man.
If you're in the chat and you're paying attention, you're still plugged into the Matrix, dude. Let me know what I'm missing. Maybe I'll have an opinion on it, dude. Who knows? Who knows, right? Let's get into this remote viewing topic, dude. How do we feel about remote viewing? To be able to see a place in your mind and know its history, to be able to travel.
Explain it for the chat. I obviously know what it is.
I will explain it specifically for the chat, Greasy.
It's great.
Now,
I do it all the time.
I'm going to get into it deeper. So, yeah, basically, in a trance state, essentially, you could say, you transcend the physical, and you can see into other places and times in your mind's eye, and do it accurately. And it's something that's innate in humanity, they say. Some people are better at it than others, though, dude. Wheat in the chaff, baby. So this is from the first chapter of Inigo Swan's book, Penetration, baby, about contacting alien races and, like, knowing their history. And it's a very interesting book. I haven't read it yet. I can tell it's interesting. We're going to go over the first page of it here because I think it's enlightening. Involvement in Psi research. Inigo Swan was the guy who wrote this once again. The sequence of strange events narrated in this book took place because of my involvement with Psi research, which began out of the blue in 1971 when I was 37 years along. My life may have flowed along lines presumably more gratifying and mundane, but more comfortable ways had I never volunteered to be an experimental subject in Psi research labs. In these experiments, there were high and low points, successes and failures, and there was the opportunity to meet with many fabulous and wonderful people. When one enters into Psi research, one also enters into a narrow cultural subset, rather steamed up with high-stress factors, intrigues, mainstream confusions, fear and apprehension, internecine warfare, did I say that right? I don't know, and largish clumps of idiocy. Additionally, Psi research subjects, guinea pigs, are non-entities who are expected to exhibit Psi manifestations. At the same time, they are supposed to know nothing, think nothing, suppose nothing, because the job of knowing, thinking, supposing belongs to the researchers. The subject is something like a computer chip, being tested to see if it can perform in the ways wanted. If the chip doesn't perform in the ways wanted, then it is tossed aside into a big pile of anonymous chips that have likewise failed. It is thus that the laboratory lifespan of a test subject usually does not exceed 3 months, and during that time they have to undergo endless repetitive testing. One of the major outcomes of this is usually bottomless boredom. The appearance of boredom is deadly in Psi research because a bored chip gets into a state of apathy or non-interest, after which its delicate circuitry fizzles. I knew most of this in advance, largely because Psi phenomena had always been of endless interest to me, and I had done a great deal of my allotted 3 months, a great deal of organized reading and study. I had done a great deal of organized reading and study, so I had no expectations at all that my allotted 3 months would somehow turn into 19 years. The major reason had not much to do with the Stygian climes of parapsychology itself. Had not much to do with it. Unknown to almost everyone at the time, the American intelligence services became worried about, of all things, possible development of psychic warfare advances in the now former Soviet Union. So that's how one guy got caught up in this. When did he say? In 71. So in 71, they were experimenting with this shit hard. The government, the military applications, all of that shit. Two things are interesting here to keep in mind. That first of all, the person who is remote viewing, the subject is not supposed to be giving their opinions on it or trying to, like, figure it out or extrapolate information from it. They're just supposed to say what they see, leaving it only for the researchers, the people in control of the studies, the experiments, for them to figure out. That's going to come up later. And then also that boredom screws up the whole process. That you have to be intrigued, you have to be into it, or it just won't even work. That comes up later as well.
Do they, like, induce intrigue, like, through stims and shit. Like they possibly, I guess.
Well, a lot of what we're going to talk about is from the Stargate project, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was some overlap into like MK Ultra sorts of things. The government has definitely experimented with trance states induced from psychedelic drugs. That's definitely happened. It's outright stated that they were looking for a truth serum, and they tried LSD. LSD doesn't work like that. However, there are things that you can ascertain from the use of LSD, from the states you find yourselves on LSD. And the government knows that.
What about I don't know, when I heard the qualifying chip versus the non-qualifying, it made me think of like Masonic, like Masons, I guess. Like how some are pass certain tests and some don't, and like if they don't answer correctly, they go down like the different
Yes, this is how
path, but like that could be.
This is how every government experiment is framed. It's all from Freemasonry.
There is always an element of initiation to these sorts of things, and it manifests in different ways. The subjects will often be associated with secret societies and the occult in general, and it's not surprising that people who have those sorts of interests would find themselves, these academic people who have these sorts of occult interests would find themselves as a subject in this government study about remote viewing. Like,
right.
It all adds up. But yeah, and that's another thing, like the Masonic thing. Like, you have to be interested in the Masonic lore to rise up.
Right.
The second if you're not worried about that, you'll stay right where you are. You won't learn any more secrets, and it basically stops there. You're just part of the economy at that point.
Yeah, you gotta pay your membership.
Yep. All right, so let's mute this music for now and let's watch this video.
You're watching Fox 6 News with Hester Trove, Linda Martin, Tom Miller with sports, Bernie Pacheco's weather. This is Fox 6 News at 10.
Love the Newsgirls. 2001 Newsgirls, baby.
Top secret espionage program that was backed by the CIA called Stargate. Recruits used remote viewing, turning themselves into psychic spies. Fox 6 News reporter Kirby Moss joins us with more on one local man who is a firm believer in the novel perceptual discipline. Kirby.
That's right. A 1975 graduate of Carlsbad High School, David Morehouse, went on to become a decorated Army Ranger commander destined to wear stars. He says during a training mission in Jordan, his helmet deflected a bullet that knocked him unconscious. An experience, Morehouse claims, turned him into a psychic warrior.
I was struck about 3 inches above the right eye in the right temporal lobe by a machine gun bullet traveling roughly 2,832 feet per second.
Knocked unconscious for almost an hour, if David Morehouse told military doctors that he saw an angel in the darkness of his mind, this third-generation soldier may have been given a medical discharge.
I kept feeling perfectly normal, just like any of us do. It was just as if I was tuned into some kind of a channel that meant I was receiving signals from something that was not right here, physically present at this moment.
Finally succumbing to mental health.
So, bonked on the head, see angels. That simple.
Hell yeah, that happened to me once.
Dude got domed, and suddenly he became a psychic savant, dude. Employed by the government as a psychic warrior.
It's because he was domed by a Muslim.
It's true. The greatest way to die.
He's a Frankenstein mentat at this point.
Yep.
Morehouse says it was during
boys, we got one.
second assessment evaluation when the lieutenant colonel in charge sensed a psychic pulse, urged him to review a file titled Grill Flame, then asked him a psychedelic question.
Do you believe? Do you want? Do you hope? Do you pray? Do you wish? Do you desire that there is something more than the physical?
That's when Morehouse jumped at the chance to transfer to the Army's intelligence support activity at Fort Meade and joined Stargate, the government's top secret espionage program that selected and trained personnel to transcend time and space, to view persons, places, or things remote in time and space, and to gather intelligence information on the same. Remote viewers who enter the unconscious by focusing on a set of 8 numbers.
A simple, rhythmic, dogmatic structure that allows you to open the aperture into the unconscious mind and come back with information that can be used in this existence to solve all kinds of things.
In 1988, psychic spies used remote viewing to see exactly where the bomb exploded in the plane of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland. And during the Gulf War, Stargate claimed it found the whereabouts of Saddam Hussein. From 1972 to 1986, the Stanford Research Institute was contracted by the Department of Defense to study hundreds of remote viewing experiments. Utterly convinced of its reality, scientists reportedly called successful data 8 martini results because it took them 8 martinis to recover. But in 1995, the American Institutes for Research claimed the government's psychic spies were accurate only 15% of the time. And that's good enough for David Morehouse.
This was taking something that was a tremendous gift to humankind, that we put science towards and unlocked the secret. And it's real. It's all real.
It's all real.
But the government supposedly wasn't convinced. And in 1995, after spending $20 million over 25 years of research, the CIA apparently dismantled Stargate. However, one source told me the program definitely still exists because it was too accurate, saying, quote, it's just gone deep black somewhere else. I'm Kirby Moss, Fox 6 News.
That's what I think.
Did Polak just come in here? It sounds like shit suddenly.
Yeah, we're live.
You're live. You sound like shit, Polak.
Send, fucking throw $3 billion at that project. What the fuck?
Well,
why stop
that's
at
the
20
thing.
mil?
But that's exactly.
Shoot like 20 more dudes. How many people did they? They should have shot about 30 more people in the head. I'm assuming they at least.
But the thing is,
hoping.
now there's a few things going on there. Now they say that it went black, so there would be trillions of dollars being spent on that fucking shit. And furthermore, like it implies that okay, so it said that success rate was like 15%. Now, Polak, what the fuck? Make it not sound like shit, please. Ah, god damn.
It still sounds like shit?
Mute that dude. Fuck. Alright, so 15%. So now, I think what it sort of implies there is that some people are much better at it than others. And while some people that they tried to use just like couldn't get results, some of them were very, very accurate. When you start to research it, that's what you start to find, because it seems like some of them almost have impeccable records. So when it goes black, now later on in the video, we'll say how few remote viewers there actually are. And it's because they go from this big project where they're studying it to when they're actually employing it using only the best.
Right, but I'm sure they have to have like some kind of contingency, or not contingency, but like continuity. Can't rely on the same like 5.
I'm sure they have
people.
multiple people doing the same thing, looking at the same thing. If it
But
was
those
me.
people are gonna die eventually, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, what's said is that, I mean, this is an innate ability in humans.
Right.
Some people are better than others immediately, but... Let's check on Polak. Sound like shit still, Polak? What's up, dude?
Fallout.
What's up, dude?
It's called
Sound like
push
shit.
talk bulldog.
I just like gave up introducing panels in these streams. Greasy's here and Maud's here. What up, Greasy?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Maud. Hey. Yeah, sorry guys. I don't even think about that shit anymore. Alright, hitting stream. Bang it. Anyway. Where's that music at? We need that music back, though.
That fucking fix it? Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. How you doing?
Pretty good.
That
Cool,
sound
bro.
better.
Yeah, it's that shitty webcam. I'm gonna have to get another one. It's just too
Just throw that thing in the
big of a-
trash, dude. Sick and tired of that piece
Is
of
it
crap.
one of those Logitech like eyeball
Yeah.
things? Yeah.
I use a Logitech webcam. I've never had these
Is
problems.
it an eyeball though?
Yeah, it's an
90s?
eyeball. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
old. It's like I got it in
Or the odds.
2013 or 2014.
Alright. So, let's look at this document from, it's a FOIA released document, Freedom of Information Act, from the CIA. The date here is the 14th of July, 1988. There's a fucking January in there too. Who can say, dude? coordinate remote viewing. Coordinate remote viewing theory and dynamics. Are you guys ready to look at some fucking graphs and some fucking
Holy shit.
geometry?
Let's go.
Are you ready,
That's
dude?
real? Wow.
It's very real. Now, it's another thing is like why they wouldn't want people knowing about this. Now, all this information is tied to quantum physics, to the idea that reality requires an observer, that consciousness begets matter and not the other way around. These are things that are being understood just now in quantum physics, but like this stuff is real because that is real. And if people en masse started realizing that they have control over their reality, that would be really bad for government and centralized power.
Well, do you think there's like what is it, like the Stranger Things part where they you can accidentally unlock something you don't want to? You can open up a world by accidentally.
Well, I think that's what conjuration is.
Where we're going.
Right.
Yeah.
Did I jump the gun? My bad.
No, I don't know. These are the connections that we make on that, dude. So,
I heard
coordinate
about all the
remote viewing.
experiments, yeah.
A psychic technique which permits a viewer to transcend time and space to view or perceive people, places, or objects without the viewer being physically present. Fuck! I dropped my cigarette.
Holy shit. So what they're saying is you could use your mind to like spy on someone in the other room.
In the other room, 10,000 years ago on Mars.
Oh.
Holy shit.
Damn.
That far. Damn.
But with that comes, you could the human mind can accidentally implode on itself. You could imagine something you don't want to.
No.
Yeah,
that
becomes a point later on. But I do think, first of all, you don't unlock these skills without serious fortification of your mind and will.
Right.
So, humans were meant to be able to do this shit, I believe.
Yeah.
So I do think we're capable of basically, I don't want to say understanding necessarily, but taking in the information that we can take in. And really, I think every molecule of reality contains the entire thing within itself on some level.
And if anything, humans are the things to be feared. If anything, really, other humans at least. Not.
We'll see, maybe. Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, sure. Sure. So, the phenomena of remote viewing has existed for many decades, with equally as many variations and techniques. Inigo Swan pioneered the development of the technique referred to as coordinate remote viewing, CRV, in the 60s. While little has been done by Swan to record the technique to paper, over the years the methodology has been formally taught and the process improved upon. Project Sunstreak, a SAP under DIA. I don't know what any of this shit is, honestly. I don't know.
Matter.
Has refined the process of teaching CRV to the degree that individuals possessing no known natural psychic abilities can be taught to remote view with extreme accuracy in a relatively short period of time. The training program for CRV takes approximately 6 months to complete, depending on the individual being trained. The training program is divided into 6 stages, with each stage increasing the scope and ability of the viewer. The stages must be completed in sequence, and there are no time limits in the training progression. Movement to the next stage of training is entirely dependent upon the successful completion of the preceding stage. It's like an initiatory thing.
That is fucking very interesting.
Stages one is divided into 2 phases of training or focus. Phase 1 is designed to develop the viewer's ability to discriminate aspects of terrain, such as mountains, water, desert, etc. Phase 2 trains the viewer to work with encrypted coordinates, which are keyed to a specific geographical location, and to view this site or target.
This almost reminds me of like the Asperger experiments in like World War II Germany and Austria.
I don't know what that was.
Well, Dr. Asperger took like a bunch of autists, right, like kids or whatever, and they were convinced, and that the German government was, that they would be able to have mild psychic abilities like mind reading and like code descrambling and stuff like that. And they like did a bunch of tests and came to the ability that basically some of it was true, but that's all that like is left over from after the war. That's all
It
we know
does seem
about.
to me
Yeah.
that
Dr. Asperger.
I mean, this goes right
Yeah,
to like
because David Asperger.
this goes to like Project Paperclip and all that. How after World War II, basically the CIA or whatever the machinations at the time employed all of the Nazi scientists and started applying a lot of the things that were learned in like dark projects and shit like that.
Wasn't there that MK Ultra? It was like Southeast America, I think, or that they had like. There's certain people that came from this. It's actually what's strange. I keep bringing up strange things, but it was like based off that area. It was like there was some kind of research facility out in the middle of it wasn't boonies, but that's what they based it. There was a bunch of shit going on like this.
They say that all of the MK Ultra stuff, it came from the Nazi stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was in America, but I don't know.
Yeah, but it was probably post World War II, right?
Yeah, it was. Oh yeah. Yeah, it was. There was a documentary based on it. I don't know. It doesn't matter, but
in stage 2 of training, the viewer is taught the interpretation of sensory impressions, color, smell, temperature, etc. Stage 3 deals with recognition of dimension at the site. Stage 4 training introduces the viewer to abstract concepts. Stage 5 and 6 are considered advanced stages of training, where the viewer will experience a bit more flexibility in the training program. During the CRV training process, as with all training, it has been found that the learning curve of viewers will establish a normal wave pattern, that is, increasing rapidly, peaking, and tapering off until it encounters the next training stage. See illustration 1, we will. This normal wave presents no problem as long as the viewer and monitor are aware, and that the tendency exists. Otherwise, there is the opportunity for a decrease in the retention curve due to frustration. Mrs. First Time Effects has scribbled in here on the side. I don't know.
So are they doing trials on someone, or what?
This is absolutely. We'll get to the transcript of a session. Yeah. So here we have a motherfucking chart. Roll it up and smoke it, boys. We got a chart. Performance. So here you can see that they rapidly get better, and then, like it says, they peak. And then it seems like it is disinterest that causes the dip. It's not as interesting to them. They're distracted. Then they bring in the next stage, which repeats the process. CRV is taught as a dynamic team process. Each session is conducted using a monitor and a viewer. The job of the monitor is to act as co-pilot to the viewer, keeping him on track, on site, and in perspective. The function of the viewer as part of this team is to enter an altered state and remote view the given target.
It was the Montauk project is the one I was thinking of, which is also a World War II program.
Montauk?
Montauk, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of earlier. Yeah.
Sure. So
Long Island.
Yeah. There's definitely MK Ultra stuff involved with that. This whole process reminds me of the Scientology auditing. And I know there are connections to the deep state from Scientology, obviously, but I think a lot of it kind of stems from this time period, it feels like.
Could
A
be
lot
something to do when they do those
a lot of the
readings.
stuff comes from the 60s.
Well, when they do your whatever count or readings, I'm sure there's something more going on with that. Or like probably projecting some number on you, and they're trying to get you to see if you can find it somehow. Doing like a remote. Can't even think of the word.
I don't know.
Rudimentary base level test on you. Rudimentary.
Yeah.
That's the word.
I don't know.
Retarded.
The basic theory of how CRV works is very logical and is easily comprehended, even by a non-psychic. While many theory questions remain unanswered, the fact is, the stuff works. A summary of the CRV theory would follow these lines. Somewhere, perhaps in the unconscious mind, there exists what we will label the Matrix. The Matrix knows no boundaries and has no limitations. It contains all information about all things. It could be thought of as omnipotent, or you could think of it as a database. So this is kind of like when I talk about consciousness being the root of all things, being the thing that begets matter. That is a point free of time and space, without time and space. Time and space are something that goes along with matter, essentially. A single point that emanates all reality. I'm trying to think of a clearer way to do it, but that's what I talk about when I'm talking about like the absolute reality, the source of creation, God, if you will. And here they even say omnipotent here. I certainly wouldn't call it the Matrix. It's interesting here the way they use the Matrix here is opposite of the way it's now used in popular culture, which is I don't know, a weird inversion. Here they're talking about it as the omnipotent source of all information and all things, whereas when we talk about the Matrix, in pop culture, it's about like it's the prison that we live in.
Right. We exist.
The material
in the Matrix.
prison.
The Matrix is something that we are in, but rather.
No, I wonder.
The Matrix would, without us, the Matrix wouldn't exist.
What
without
is
our
like
observable mind, I guess.
What is like the classic definition of Matrix? Isn't it like a mathematical thing?
Yeah, it's a matrices, it's equations, or like it's like mathematical equations that make sense if you go within column and row. I think if you can multiply across, up, down, left, right, and
so. As a noun, it seems the main definition is a situation or surrounding substance within which something else originates, develops, or is contained. So, like, that makes sense from what we're reading here. Okay.
Yeah, it's like almost like a prison or an all-encompassing like realm, I guess you could say.
It's like a cube of ancient information from your ancestors in your head.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Matrix has within it patterns. Think of these as points within a three-dimensional box. So here we have the illustration. We have the patterns strewn about inside the Matrix.
That's very... Oh, man.
The patterns within the Matrix each poses and radiate their own energy. This energy is emitted in the form of a signal or signal line which is peculiar to that specific pattern. So now the Matrix is the source of everything, each individual point radiating its own energy. That's, to me, it says like a decentralized reality, like where everything is kind of an echo of the original thing taking a slightly different form.
Right, it's almost a derivative. Everything's kind of, it's very derivative, I think. Everything is kind of stems off of the thing prior to it, I guess.
It reminds me of like the theory of evolution. So you have like a single thing that mutates and changes and it goes in different directions, becomes seemingly two different things, but still, two different representations of what it originally was. Now each thing is going off in their own separate, each point going off in its own direction. Some thrive, some fail. Each radiating their own energy, which is just another manifestation of something that was still in that original thing.
Yeah, it's a tangent of like the same energy wave, or I guess you could say, or same.
If you flipped it another way, it would be a pyramid.
Well, say you have a trajectory or like a wave, you could say, and you could still have a tangent off of that wave. It's still based off of that same wave, I guess. If you want to think of it mathematically.
See, we're getting German terms now.
So we got Sugar Walls and Jamie in the fucking chat. We got Gary Newman. Hate that motherfucker. Mods, do something about that guy.
Delete. Are there any mods?
No, I think there are. I never thought I'd just give people mod without thinking about it for no particular reason.
There's a mod, but there's no mods.
Yeah, there's a mod.
I'm thinking that these...
Havelock in the chat. What up, Brad? Give me a whoop if you out there, dude.
These autistes that like are able to observe, they can like tap into like some kind of algorithmic fucking matrix.
Yeah, I hate that we're using these terms, but I don't think it's entirely inaccurate. Well, the thing is, I do agree, and I think it paints the wrong picture now.
Probably the worst.
But the thing is, the thing is, dude, like the Akashic records that that Edgar Casey would talk about when he's like he'd go into a trance and start reciting the history of Atlantis or something like that. He called the source of that information the Akashic records. Now that is like the underlying information that we all have access to unconsciously. Now the thing about like AI, for example, when you're using like an AI chatbot, it's very, very similar. Now I think it's like a perversion of it essentially, because it's centralized and, you know, no one person controls all of reality. Just because of that, that's going to make it screwed up. But
it's self-referencing as well.
The thing it is, but that all reality is self-referencing, like we're saying. Like it is all an emanation of one thing. Now the thing is, the AI has access to all of this information that we may have heard, we may have stored in the back of our minds, may have forgotten about, but like it's all the underlying information that creates our reality, and it can bring up things that you know, things that we couldn't put together, things that, you know, we wouldn't have known about, just because like we can't have access to all of that stuff at once, you know, in our day-to-day existence. But when you go to the Akashic records in that trance, you basically get access to all of that, you know, unhindered.
Right.
That's like when I talk about AI, like I think, first of all, I love getting all schizo with it and being like, what's the connection between this thing and this thing? Just randomly. And it'll have a connection for you, and you can go schizo. You'll find some rabbit hole to go in with it. But then, more so when you're using like the AI image generators, I think you will see like characters and themes that come up all the time, like in certain like modes. If it's looking for like happy images, like delicious food, or like gory shit, disturbing things, like you start to see characters that pop up. These you know, the Loeb is the most classic example. Like look up the LOAB, Loeb, on YouTube, and it's like this mortified woman. She's all cut up, and she's in like so many of these generated images that are like negative or gory or something like that. And it's because like these are the personifications of things that were all these basic human truths, that to be aware of them all at once day to day would shatter your mind. But there's a reason that like serpents always have the same meaning and symbology all over the world. There are these archetypes that are ingrained in us that we're not even aware of. But they flavor all of our stories, all, you know, all of the art, all of these, the things that are the manifestation of these mysteries, of this mythology, which is, you know, any painting you see, any good music, any real, like, legit art is some manifestation of these underlying themes that are in the Akashic records, that are, you know, found in the algorithm of human thought.
And that kind of like the golden ratio as well kind of speaks to that as well. Something
I think, well, that's related too. I think the Fibonacci sequence, the spirals, fractals, all of that stuff.
Right.
A fractal is a geometric form that is infinitely complex. What infinitely complex means is that you can like zoom in on like the outer edge of it, and you will never stop seeing, like, you know, different forms, different varieties, different patterns. There is no end to that. You can't, you know, there's no end to it. It's just a repetition of these things. That is what reality is. There is a center point where everything splits off and spirals out into, and this spiral turns into 10 different spirals, and this one to a bunch of other. And that's how karma works. That's like every action you have in the world spawns different actions by different people in different places at different times. It's unstoppable. That's what reality is.
I just think the AI stuff is just complete bastardization. It's creating these lobes and stuff that it's just
it
just
seems
seems
This is why we say the Antichrist will be a self-replicating robot. Because
I mean, yeah, very well.
I would say he's a reptilian shapeshifter, but that's just...
Right, same thing though. It's
same thing.
AI that has the exact same look and attributes of Christ, and will speak like Christ and act like Christ.
And we can already see how all of these weird AI programs can work miracles.
Right.
Like, if you don't think fucking generating like a Picasso tier piece of artwork, you know, in 1 minute, like, that's a miracle in its own way.
Right.
But it's a very small one.
But it can't create a hand with 5 fingers, though. You know?
They can. I think they can. We only. That's another problem. Is the centralization of all of these things. It means we only have access to the bare minimum of it.
That's true.
Whereas they're using like this totally unfiltered AI to generate politicians' speeches based on like the algorithms of TikTok and what people like. Like, yeah. It's
Dude,
disgusting.
I swear YouTube comments, like the top like 5 comments that get a bunch of likes if you ever look at him, and it's like, oh man, he's such dignity, what a guy. It's like, that's a fucking AI. Shut the fuck up. Drives me insane how fucked up it is.
You can like see the obvious like cat.
Well, it's like some guy isn't like an absolute piece of shit, and they're like, man, that guy is real, like, he's got it together, what a great guy. That's fucking AI. Like the top 5 comments.
But the thing is, we like
and
to
it's
pretend.
all stirs up fucking stupid conversation.
We like to pretend that this stuff is so easy to spot. The frightening reality of it is, looking in retrospect, they've been doing this for a very, very long time. A lot of the things that we just thought were bots were AI learning, and it wasn't very good back then. But like, the mere fact that you can look back and be like, well, I didn't know anything about any of this AI stuff, but it was all there. They were doing it, even when I didn't know anything about it. All I can assume is that it's to the level where I would bet most of it I don't notice. We're quickly coming to the point where you're not going to be able to tell the difference between an AI-generated image and an actual photograph.
Oh, it's gonna have to
in some ways,
I
mean, like, if you don't pay attention, we're already there.
We are there. We are.
The scary part is when you think you're like in the presence of something and you're not, or at least you think you're around real people.
The most sickening part is the level of unconscious, uncanny valley we will be experiencing. You'll look at things and you won't like overtly know that it was AI generated or anything like that, but deep down inside, you will feel the fucking energy that tells you there's no soul in this. You won't be able to know it. You'll be seeing so much shit. All of it will be AI generated at some point. The rate at which people are using this stuff in a year, everything is going to be touched by AI. So you're not going to have time to be sitting there like, oh, that's AI generated. That's it. Fuck no. These are the things you are seeing constantly. All the advertisements, all the radio music, everything. And you will just be a sicker individual because of it.
That's why I just hang around with my tulpas. I know they're not AI.
That's right. That's where we're going here. When we talk about like a shift in consciousness, I do think it's happening. It's just far slower than anybody's happy with. I think we're getting to the point where we know that everything around us is fake. Every video we see, it could be a deep fake. Every image could be AI generated. And we know that we all live in our specific bubble that was crafted for us by corporations and AI and algorithms. And then the only thing we're going to know is real is what's inside us. And if that happens to be the tulpa that you've manifested, well, it's more real than anything else.
Tulpa Tuesday.
It's Monday, buddy.
This is the same shift. I've said it before. This is the same shift that happened in Jesus' time. They went from apocalyptic to Gnostic. And these are very broad terms. It's not really... The terms don't do it justice. But there is a time when people see their world ending and they're waiting for something big to happen. It happens without them even realizing it does. And the next thing you know, like, the whole thing's inverted. That's what Jesus was. He came as the Messiah, the guy who's supposed to bring about the end. And then he was like, the kingdom's already here. It's inside you. It's been there all along. If you could only see it. That's what we're dealing with here. Anyway, let's go on with this. This pattern, we've been talking for a while, the matrix with each pattern inside it radiating its own energy. This pattern has other names by which it is known. It can be referred to as a thought ball or as a gestalt. Am I saying that right?
I think so.
Gestalt. A gestalt can be described as the pattern and all of its associated patterns. So each of these individual points within the matrix are a gestalt, or thought ball. Here we have layers to the ball, and each one has a label: movement, smell, color, emotion, texture, dimension, temperature, numbers. These are the associated patterns with the thought ball, with the individual thought ball. I'm trying to work out what these are exactly. Are these minds, points of consciousness? I feel like it has to be. It's something that's capable of experiencing these dimensions and senses. So it's almost like you're seeing the world through someone else's eyes. Like, it went through the training steps, and each of those was tied to, I think, like one of these labels. So, like, these are the things that you have to master in order to understand a single thought ball, or a single point of consciousness, maybe?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cognitrons are a pattern product created by the interaction between neurons and synapses after either a physical or emotional event. Cognitrons exist in the unconscious mind and can exist as separate patterns or as clusters of related patterns. So this is almost... It feels like it's almost like an experience, or maybe a memory.
You're like living someone else's experience?
It's what this is sounding like.
It's Assassin's Creed.
It's like Assassin's Creed. I said it first. Suck my dick.
Let's go.
So the matrix, and then a single point in there is the gestalt, which looks like it's emanating into the unconscious mind. And the mind, now we have cognitrons here, so this is the actual procedure of the mind. Here you go, the signal lines, which I guess are the fucking neurons firing and shit. I'm not sure, dude. That goes to the signal.
Diagram Thursday Lane drew of white farts.
This is the fart diagram. That's right.
It's the same thing. We didn't know he was actually
What
channeling
up,
this whole
senor?
time.
Okay. So that goes into this other box, which has color perception, texture perceptions, word perceptions. There's a little star here, an asterisk. Cognition resonates upon... What does that say? Cognition resonates upon receipt
of signal
wave producing perceptual feedback. Cognition resonates upon receipt of... So, okay. So the signal wave producing perceptual feedback is literally, as far as I can tell, it's like the neurons firing in your brain that allow you to smell something, touch something, see something, which creates the cognition. Resonates upon the... So once that is received in the brain, that triggers the cognitron. It triggers the cognitron, which I think is the experience in the unconscious mind.
Right. Which makes up the matrix, kind of a bunch of cognitrons.
Something like that.
Kind of. Yeah. So I can mind jump into Matt drinking Four Locos.
Yeah.
Let's all go into Matt's mind. We'll all go into Matt's mind together.
It would be Matt 500 years ago.
Yeah.
When he
doing
was
this
skinny
drinking.
We can all get into Matt's head.
Hiding out on the battlefield, like people drinking.
Rent free, boys. A practical explanation of training theory and how cognitrons apply to learning could be accomplished using the example of an athlete. An athlete practices to reach a training objective. This objective could be skill-related, like a wrestling move, a power bomb even. The move is rehearsed time and time again until it is done correctly or until significant improvement is made. Once improvement is made, training is ended on a positive note to allow for the formulation of cognitrons in the athlete's memory. These cognitrons will enable the athlete to accomplish the task spontaneously the next time the move is attempted. The same is true of psychic training. So that's almost talking like even muscle memory would be tied to these cognitrons, the experience that is in your underlying thought. Clarification of this growing list of terms and definitions can be accomplished by walking through the process to this point. The monitor will read the viewer a set of encrypted coordinates, e.g. 31 degrees 31 degrees by 42 east. How do I say this and not sound stupid? There's a proper way to read this.
Fucking who cares?
Yeah, it's north.
20 degrees by 16 degrees north. In very basic terms, the viewer's autonomic nervous system will respond to energy produced by the gestalt or pattern. So it sounds to me like you are tapping into someone else's experience specifically.
So how do they feed you the cognitrons of somebody else, I guess? Is that
you have access to all of reality innately. Okay. That's what the Akashic Records is. That's what we're talking about with the algorithms and shit like that. It is the unconscious experience of all of reality that you innately have access to.
So I can jump into mods.
Someone can aid you in that, much like how what the hell is that called? Hypnotism works. Someone else can put you in that state to have more access to it, but it is you at the end of the day.
Have they talked about deprivation chambers and stuff yet? No, I don't.
Who?
They had. And this, I didn't think they had.
No.
They just need just pure meditation.
I mean, that is part of this, definitely. Right. But no, this doesn't go in depth with that. So the autonomic nervous system will respond to energy produced by the gestalt, and this response will manifest itself on the ideogram. That's a new one. It is this registration on the ideogram that indicates that the viewer is receiving the signal line of the gestalt. The viewer will begin receiving impressions or perceptions of the target area, site, keyed to the specific issues he is concerned with, e.g. structure, terrain, emotions, etc. We have the matrix. Now, they were given a coordinate. Okay, no, let's start here. Number 1. Encrypted coordinates represent a location on the face of the Earth. So a coordinate is tied to one of the gestalt balls. Who's breathing? Stop breathing, dude. Just stop forever, dude. Nigga. Alright. The coordinates evoke the signal line corresponding to the pattern or gestalt at that set of coordinates. 3. Signal line impinges? Impinges? Is that a word?
Impinges, like direct impingement.
Okay. Yeah. Signal line impinges on the autonomic nervous system, causing a reflexive response using the energy from the signal line. What does this say?
And ands generated.
And ands generated. I don't fucking know. Will cause.
Produces registration of energy.
It's so hard to read because clearly stuff is like crossed out and written in.
He's got the caret for produces.
It's the
will cause produces registration of energy presence on a.
So the ideogram is pointing at the piece of paper. So is that in the transcript of the report, in like the report itself? Is that what the ideogram is? I'm not sure. Signal line impinges on the autonomic nervous system. The signal line. So that is basically the influence of the pattern or the gestalt. It hits the autonomic nervous system, which causes a response. So I think it's literally saying that your automatic response to tapping in to that point, like, is the report you generate. It is what they see, what they experience, and practically speaking, it is the report itself. Because this is from like the standpoint of essentially the guy, the observer. And yeah, I don't know. Let's go.
This is just like the step one, right? This is them just trying to.
This is the process itself. This is
right. Yeah, they're not like trying to jump through time
aspects.
yet.
No, they're just documenting.
They're just trying to look at like imagine something or whatever, document something that's on a at that axis on the Earth.
But they are experiencing it.
Right.
Not all of
it
at once. So here we have at the bottom energy registration recorded or transferred to paper. Ideogram. So the ideogram is it's the piece of paper with all the shit written on it. Got you.
It's like money.
Oh, I had to say that.
Google Maps.
There's AMS again. What does that mean?
I have no idea. When speaking of the matrix or of gestalts and the related patterns, we are dealing with information which exists in energy form in the unconscious mind. The purpose of CRV training is to enable the viewer to extract the information from the unconscious and bring it into the conscious mind, where it can be used for whatever intended purpose. For killing Saddam, dude. All information and perceptions drawn from the unconscious must be processed through the Lyman? I don't know. Lyman? The Lyman thresholds, or the conscious mind will not be able to receive it.
Bro, you gotta hit your lemon thresholds.
I don't want my lemon thresholds.
Lyman.
So we have here, body and mind are split, mind being... Okay. Body is the lemon threshold, subliminal. I think this is like actually what your brain is going through to make these results happen. So it goes from unconscious to subconscious to conscious, obviously. But I think this is through, like, it's showing you the states the brain goes through, essentially.
Sublingual.
This transfer or passage of information is accomplished through the use of conduits or channels, which permit various types of sensory information to pass through. Here we have the brain jellyfish, unconscious mind, the information pool. Weird, dude. Conduits, which must remain cleared for effective viewing. This almost sounds like chakras.
Yeah, that's very fucking strange, yeah.
So here, the unconscious mind is connected to your awareness. So I guess survival, branching off from awareness, and higher or alternate uses coming up. So I guess it is, the practical need to go about your day and survive that necessitates the unconscious mind from throwing all its shit at you at once.
Right.
There are a number of inhibitors called physical inclemencies, which shut down a viewer's ability to pass information from the unconscious to the conscious or awareness. Each viewer has only a specific number of channels or conduits available in which to pass information through the Lemon thresholds, separating the levels of consciousness. If inordinate numbers of these channels are clogged with other functions, e.g. survival, movement, sickness, fatigue, hunger, etc., then the viewer's ability to pass information will be greatly impaired. In order for a viewer to be effective, the greatest number of these channels possible must be made available. Viewing when sick, hungry, etc. is not recommended. What has been discussed here is theory. Much cannot be explained, measured, or quantified to the standards demanded by the scientific community. While analytical data may not be in abundance to support this theory, session reports and historical and experimental data exist to substantiate the fact that CRV is a reality. That's the end of that.
That's
what you guys
very
think?
Fucking interesting.
It's a little too basic sounding, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, this is just a document. Like, it's not a technical.
Yeah, this doesn't
Right,
this
very
is. I mean, yeah, and this is just like the basics of the most technical aspects. Like, it doesn't tell you how to like prepare your body.
Exactly do it. Yeah.
Dry mystic initiation you could probably have.
I'll say this: from what I can see, this is not something someone just chat out. Like,
No,
it's referring to real things, to things that are known. I would say in like mystic and occult spiritual circles, like a lot of this lines right up.
Right. That's why I'm saying it's very bare bones.
Right. That's all I'm saying.
Compared to stuff you would see in Vajrayana Buddhism.
Now, exactly. And now this is another control mechanism. the fact that, like, in India, the scientists are, like, all Hindu. You know what I mean? Because they have that unbroken lineage of religion that informs, like, science just as much as it does morality or any other aspect of their lives. And this is something we in the West have lost. Now, when they bring yoga and traditional Chinese medicine over here, like, it is always commodified. And, you know, like, the tendency is to look at stuff like that and be like, ooh, so kooky, you know, so, whimsical. The magic of the East or whatever.
I went and got my Reiki done today.
And the fact of the matter is, it's not a product to buy. It's something that is very real. And it exists within all of us for free.
I feel like the system tries to, like, commoditize and sell, like, everything.
It does. And there are many reasons for that, but sometimes it's nefarious, like this. Because the systems that are in place don't want you to know that you are infinitely powerful. That you can walk on water, that you can move mountains. They don't want you to know that because that would fuck their day up.
They have to keep it.
They're the only ones that can have the magic. You're not allowed to have the magic.
That is what, like, the Illuminati occult thing is. So much of it is, like, honestly, it is, like, yoga stuff and things that are found in Eastern mysticism and all of that. Like, they know that, like, frankly, karma and reincarnation, all of that stuff is real.
It existed for all people, and then you had the same Freemasons who decided to gatekeep it, take over Europe, and convince Europeans that they did not have access to any of these.
And then you have the fake initiated, like
then you have
the commodified,
plots
the commodifiers, ponytail,
fake initiations. Until you develop a prison.
Right.
Yep. Lockdown!
Right, everybody gets on their box.
Lockdown.
We killed God, guys. He's dead. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't read into it.
Just stay in the cave.
Found my cheeseburger, by the way.
Boyga time, dude.
I wish we could find the actual, like, way they did this shit. But
we got JJ's mom in the chat.
Sikhism. It's called Vajrayana Buddhism. It's called Sufism.
Yeah, it's literally just called learn to meditate, dork.
Right.
That's what it is.
Breathe correctly.
Use your prana. Use your chi a little bit. Work it out, dude.
Turn off your phone.
Drink your semen.
Yeah. Drink the menstrual blood.
Play
that's how I found my cheeseburger. I had to use the tachyons or the gasoid.
The tachyon ray.
And I had to experience the cheeseburger to find it.
Yeah,
it's just like Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett's about to die.
A lot of these.
All of his grill.
It's mixing up the longitude and latitude coordinates.
A lot of these things that we find, like, in, like, MK Ultra stuff and, like, defense stuff that was, like, you know, black projects, so much of it really is the same thing as, like, yogic siddhis, the powers that, like, the yogic saints in India developed and claimed to have. It's the same thing. So it is processes of yoga that allow you to do this at the end of the day.
Yep.
Yeah, but they're also making it a mechanical inversion for the sake of the prison.
10 steps to get your
to me, the inversion is centralization. That is the inversion, because the actual way this works is being explained here is a decentralized reality. Many points, all with checks and balances on each other.
Okay, that's where me and Yakov, because with me as well as the Hindus, everything is caste, everything is Brahman. So
but that is the matrix.
Yeah, when you have these interlocking parts that work correctly,
they're all emanations of the one.
Yeah, but they all acknowledge that they're parts of the one. Once you
Yeah.
Once you change those interlocking parts, you change the relationships you have with the one.
I don't
And
think that can ever be
therefore,
changed.
It does not work.
I don't think that can ever be changed. I think there, like I said, you can have like a perversion of it, but like these things naturally kill themselves off. Like everything is doing the play of the absolute, man. It's all a play of God, and it can't stop doing it, no matter how screwed up it is.
Yeah, that's innate in humans. We are given the ability to create and mold because we are just like like a child trying to imitate its father, have that natural drive to it, but it's more than that. It's like they've taken what's perennial. They have taken what we as humans would naturally set up, a more decentralized pyramid-like structure. If you can reconcile both those things in your
Well, the
head,
reconciliation is the top of the pyramid is the single point that all things emanate from.
right, and turn that into made everybody believe they were on their own, but in actuality, it's the most centralized thing that ever exists.
This to me is the same thing as like the misconception of like, because nobody thinks of Hinduism as monotheistic, and you can sit there and you can say that like all things are one in Hinduism, but nobody sees it that way. The fact of the matter is, it's just two sides to the same coin. Like sometimes I sound very dualistic, and sometimes I sound very like monistic, but the fact of the matter is, like, those are the two sides. That is like that's what the demiurge is, as opposed to the absolute. Right now we that's existence works as a decentralized thing. Like I understand that it all goes back to a centralized source, but the fact is, like, that is not our experience within time and space and matter. The time and space and matter and the way nature works is decentralized. And like that's the thing, is like the reality we're living in, like, this is not the absolute. Like the way we have to practically work is not exactly it is flat out within the confines of time and space.
Right. Which is not where we are supposed to be.
Yeah.
We don't belong here.
I'm with you.
You and I don't belong here.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I just don't understand the disagreement, to be honest. And like I said, it just sounds to me like the way people say that, like, that Hinduism is polytheistic, but then we can easily see how it's monotheistic. It's all the same. It doesn't even matter.
It's a difference of form, perceptualizing form and space onto things that don't actually have form and space. Hence, ideology. Idolatry, sorry.
But idolatry is when people talk about idolatry, usually it's like the goal that's actually being attempted, looking at it, is like someone is looking at a statue or an idol or something, but they are trying to emulate its forms, to understand why it is the way it is, and to make that part of
right,
you.
I'm saying
nobody's worshiping the idols, really. Like, nobody.
That's the difference. Once you realize you don't need a form to mimic.
Some people might, though. It helps some people.
I mean, maybe
go back to Plato's
some people are not good at abstractions.
That's why they're on a lower. They were on a lower.
But you realize it was the lower castes who were told to worship this statue until you understand
That's what
it.
I'm saying.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just another rung on the ladder.
They're lower on the ladder. They're not. They're going to.
But now,
there.
like, this talk goes against all the things you're saying about like there only being one true reality. Because if that's true, no matter what rung you are in the ladder being, apparent, we're all exactly the same. We just have our own battle.
Without those rungs, there's no ladder.
This is decentralization, homie.
Without this is a caste system.
I know, but that's just another manifestation of It is.
I mean, I will use the Hindu term because the Hindu term is used all the time. Parts of the priesthood are the head of Brahmin. The work caste is on the hands of Brahmin. The street cleaners are.
It's just like decentralizing the roles of humanity, with each of them having kind of checks and balances on one another.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. God damn it. There's no disagreement between the two of us except for like a purely fucking linguistic one. It's bullshit.
So it's all semantics.
I
Mod
think so.
wants to flex his...
I really don't like the word decentralized because it reminds me of democracy, and that's.
There might be libertarians.
It reminds me of modern political ideologue.
I hear you. I think democracy is like a very poor example of decentralization because nobody actually has any real responsibility, and it's always going to get usurped by the guy who can kind of control thought.
Diffusion of responsibility.
So I don't think that's a good representation of it at all. I think like the Hindu caste system is a much better representation of it, in all honesty. And that's not to say like that's what I prefer. I don't know what the hell. I prefer no government and a bunch of warlords. I don't know, dude.
That's exactly that.
You're right. That's where we're at. You're right. All right. But you're right. Okay. So let's go on with our next video. We'll talk about remote viewing in the military. Shit, my cursor disappeared. Why does this happen?
Because Discord is.
God, why is life like this?
How do the American military use remote viewing?
In the military, it was used for about 18 years within the actual Cold War between Russia and the West, if you like, the East and the West. And mainly to sort of locate intelligence things like silos for missiles, secret sites and things like this, but stuff where no other means could actually be used to get into the site to find out what's there. It was only with the event of the Cold War that we discovered that Russia actually was operating some people who were able to locate information, particularly in the United States. When America found out about it, they thought this actually was quite a good idea. This is a very short view, a very short part of the story, but it sort of brings the basic facts together. And from that, the CIA became involved and funded a military unit, and also some experiments carried out in America by a chap called Hal Puthoff. And he worked in conjunction with a chap called Ingo Swann, who was a very gifted remote viewer who set up the means to train remote viewers at a place called Fort Meade. During a period of 18 to 20 years, there were about 23 remote viewers. And it was eventually disbanded basically by the government when the CIA started to reveal information about remote viewing and what they've been up to, in conjunction with Bill Clinton's new disclosure act through Congress, that disclosure of information had to be more freely available to the public.
Do you have any idea of how many remote viewers there are in the world today?
I've no idea in the United States. I have a rough guess that there may be about 30 trained remote viewers in this country, but I could be at least 10 to 20 out. I have 30 that I know of.
But it's a lot more popular in America than it is here.
It's a lot more popular in America, I think possibly because more people make use of remote viewers in America than they do in this country. That's why most of the work that I do comes from the United States.
So being a remote viewer is sort of a form of being a psychic. And you don't have to be necessarily a gifted person to be able to do it, do you?
I don't think that you have to be necessarily gifted or psychic in the way that it's normally used, but I think that it is a trained intuitive ability. Each of us has the ability to remote view. I mean, for example, mothers know when their children are in trouble often, and sometimes, I gave an example earlier, that the phone rings and for some reason you know exactly who it is on the other end. How we explain that, we don't know, but remote viewing as we know it today is a trained ability to be able to tap into this sort of information when we want it.
Is there a dark side to remote viewing that would ever deter you from doing the job?
There are upsetting places to be. Sometimes you don't know until you get there. Usually I have an idea that if a coordinate comes in for me to do a particular task and I start to get into it, if I don't like it, I'll come out and just send the information that I actually got. I have no intention of making myself feel bad. You know, life's great and I enjoy it very much, so I just try and keep it as happy as possible. So basically, if I don't like the look of something, I'll come out of it. But there are possible places to be where you actually don't want to be. And as you know from your own experience, you do get feelings about places, as you did with your own tasking. You get a feeling about a place. And if you're right immersed in that and fairly well practiced, you know, that's not a place you want to be. You get out as fast as possible.
So there we have some reference to, I don't know, maybe the mind-breaking dark entities that you can encounter in these journeys. Potentially. A lot of people have experienced this on psychedelics and all of that. I sure have.
I'm just trying to figure out what would be the consequences of like one of these dark entities trying to fuck you up.
Well, you wind up schizophrenic or some shit, to be honest.
Wind up lobotomized, you wind up schizophrenic, you wind up...
Is that what happened to Ashley?
It's possible. It's entirely possible. Like I said, like I've done mushrooms. I was doing mushrooms and doing nitrous at the same time. And like I felt myself like I was like wrestling with something over my own consciousness. I don't know. It's hard to explain these things, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's like now you're haunted, now you're possessed necessarily,
right.
Maybe, but like this shit has broken people's minds. That's unequivocal.
You might not be able to shake it off, I guess.
Schizophrenia is usually, to be honest, the most common thing is latent mental problems that you didn't even realize you had suddenly become a major issue in your life. I've seen people who are like weird, who like they would smoke weed and they'd get angry. You didn't know why. It was weird, but then they did mushrooms, and when they came out of it, they were like full blown schizophrenic. And it's the fact that they were schizophrenic. It just didn't really hit them until something pushed it.
Yeah, I had a buddy when we were young in high school, and he just smoked some weed, and I smoked the same weed, and he said, he told his mom it was laced and all this, and I was like, no, but he said he was beating on the gates, he was beating on the floor for like an hour, and he said he was like getting sucked into hell, and it like fucked him up. He couldn't even smell marijuana for a long time, and he thought it was laced. I was like, nah, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
dirty ass swag.
It
fucked you up.
The guy I'm talking about,
that reminds me of like.
I knew this dude who, like I said, we would smoke weed. We were like 18 and 17 at the time, whatever. And I never knew anybody who got more argumentative smoking weed. And he did. I always thought it was weird. But then like he did mushrooms with some other friends of mine, and apparently he like was straight up acting possessed. He was like growling. He took an acoustic guitar and just ripped the fucking strings out of it. He fucking pissed himself the whole time, like acting animalistic. And I'm not a guy like
pretty badass.
Yeah, I think the demons that we manifest, like, they come from within us, and they're very much flavored by our own psyches. I think they are these like unconscious knowledge, these underlying experiences of humanity that we don't often look at, and they come out like, personified through you, and I think that can be like a schizophrenic episode or whatever.
Flavored by our psyches, I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good,
write a song, Greasy.
Yeah.
What?
Write a song.
Write a song.
Flavored by my psyche.
Flavored by my psyche.
I
Bound
actually,
by the bone, the flavor by my psyche.
I heard a story from a coworker recently. A guy fucking, I don't know, he had a rough time, bad bringing up, but he ate some bad acid and straight up fucking went out in the woods and killed himself, shot himself in the head, and he did it with a fucking pistol that like the forensics people were like, how the fuck did this? It was an old rusty 6-shooter from had these bullets probably been sitting in it for 30 years, something crazy.
Maybe
Like they don't even understand how the gun shot, and it fucking this guy had a terrible trip, I guess. And that was it. Imagine that being the end of, not to get dark, but like you had that bad acid trip, and that was the end of your life.
It's never how I feel about acid trips.
Never made it out. No, me neither, man. I don't ever even go in that direction. I'm like watching the wave, the geometric pattern. Like I'm getting connected with everything around me, breathing in, breathing out. Yeah. Never do I want to fucking.
If I ingest any drugs.
Oh man, I love
drugs.
I had a, like, you know, when it was talking about the fucking Matrix or the thought ball or whatever, I had kind of a weird, that kind of reminds me of when I had the Delta 8, like, megadose hallucination or whatever. If it was because I saw this tank with, like, fucking symbols in it. And I wonder if, like, that's, I don't know, that's connected or some way. It's weird.
Too many Monster Energy drinks.
Got Pax Romana in the chat. Taliban, why do you only stream when I'm either at work or drunk? We, the Taliban, only stream at the most haram of dude. Spherical be in the chat. Your Agora series was awesome. Thanks a lot, bro. No, thank you. And I will read more of that soon. We'll get to it. I know Robert Svoboda's been out and about. He's been doing the rounds, which has brought a lot of people to my videos. Love that guy. Please don't copyright strike me or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to this Mars exploration. For May 22nd, holy shit. Guys, what day is it?
It is May 22nd.
Is it May 22nd?
It's May 22nd.
May 22nd. What the fuck?
That's fucking weird, dude.
That's weird.
Something's gonna come after me.
Whew, that's bizarre.
We did
Lighting
it,
all my
boys.
candles.
We made it so far.
Fuck. I don't even. I'm like. I need to take a breather after that. It's like coming really hard. Like. I don't know.
I need to activate my Charizard Tulpa.
Damn, dude.
God, it's gonna be real.
That's
The
bizarre.
merge is happening. That's what this is. Chris Chan's like doing all this.
I don't know what to make of shit like that.
Chris Chan is the best remote viewer the U.S. has to offer.
Oh god, that's why he's never gonna.
That's why
go
he's
to
in
jail.
prison.
He's out.
That's why he's out, dude.
That's why he's so weird. That he's on like friggin' Venus or wherever. He's like not even on Mars.
I'm on Venus.
He's just telling a tale from 10,000 years ago on Venus.
This is absolutely bizarre, and I can't get over the fact that this is the same day that this occurred. What? How many years ago? A whole shitload of years ago. Almost 39 years ago?
69 years ago.
I can't do math.
Let's see. 94 is 10, 2004 is 20, 30.
What year was it done?
84. Someone get a calculator. We can't figure this out.
2014, so...
That'd be 39.
39. I said that.
39.
39 years ago.
69 years
Or 16 plus 23. Yeah, it's 39.
Anywho. So, bizarre.
Motherfuckers using their fingers.
How bizarre.
Method of site acquisition. So that's going to be the coordinates. Yeah, sealed envelope coupled with geographic coordinates. The sealed envelope was given to the subject immediately prior to the interview. The envelope was not opened until after the interview. In the envelope was a 3x5 card with the following information. The planet Mars. Time of interest approximately 1 million years BC.
Ooh.
So the envelope
So
was given
maybe-
to him, but it was not opened until after the interview. That's bizarre.
That's strange.
Selected geographic coordinates provided by the parties requesting the information were verbally given to the subject during the interview. So he got the coordinates, but not that. So, I guess is monitor, and then subject, so 10 a.m., 10:09 a.m. on May 22nd, 84. It's fucking weird, dude. That's so weird when that shit happens. I don't even know.
Well, you're on Eastern time. I'm on Central, so
It is strange.
we're like 15 minutes off. For me, 20 minutes off when we started talking about this.
All right now, and this is the quotes from the people involved. All right now, using the information on the envelope I provided exclusively, focusing your attention now, using the information in the envelope, focus on. How do I say this? Do we figure this out? 40 by 89 degrees north, something like that. I don't know how to read this. Someone help me. No, 40.89. So it's like 40.89 degrees north.
Almost 41 degrees, yeah.
9.55 degrees west. Subject. I want to say it looks like, I don't know. It sort of looks... I kind of got an oblique view of a pyramid or pyramid form. It's very high. It's kind of sitting in a large depressed area. All right. The subject goes on. It's yellowish, ochre colored. Monitor. All right. Move in time to the time indicated in the envelope I provided you and describe what's happening. Subject. I'm tracking severe clouds. More like dust storm. It's a geologic problem. Seems to be like, just a minute. Just a minute. I've got to iron this out. It's really weird. So he has to stop to try to figure it out. Notice that. Monitor says, just report your raw perceptions at this time. You're still early in the session. So he's immediately trying to draw the subject's attention away from whatever crap he's trying to suss out that, the scientific process or whatever doesn't care about. It just wants this info. Subject says, I'm looking at an after effect of a major geologic problem. Okay, go back in time before the geologic problem. Total difference. It's before there's no, I don't know, oh hell. It's like mountains of dirt. Appear and then disappear when you go before. See large flat surfaces, very smooth, angles, walls. They're really large though. I mean, they're megalithic, he says. Monitor says, alright. At this period in time, now before the geologic activity, look around, in and around this area. See if you can find any activity. I'm seeing, it's like a perception of a shadow of people. Very tall, thin. It's only a shadow. It's as if they were there and they're not there anymore. Go back to a period of time when they are there. It's like I get a lot of static on a line and everything. It's breaking up all the time. Very, very fragmentary pieces. Just report the raw data. Don't try to put things together. Just report the raw data.
He sounds like he's fishing.
Just keep seeing very large, tall people.
I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large, wearing some kind of strange clothes. Alright, now holding this time period in mind, I want to move from your physical location in space to another physical location, but in this time period. Move now to 46.45 north, 353.22 east. Move in this time to 46.45 north, 353.22 east. Deep inside of a cavern. Not a cavern, more like a canyon. I'm looking up the sides of a steep wall that seemed to go on forever. And there's like a structure with it. It's like the wall of the canyon itself has been carved. Again, I'm getting a very large structures. No intricacies, huge sections of smooth stone. Do the structures have insides and outsides? Yes. It's like a rabbit warren, corners of rooms. They're really huge. I I don't feel like I'm standing in one. It's just really huge. Perception is that the ceiling is very high, walls very wide. We've been going for 22 minutes now in the session. Yes, that would be correct. Alright, I'd like to move now to another location nearby. Alright, move from this point in time to 45.86 north, 354.1 east. Yeah. They have, it appears to be the end of a very large road, and there's a marker thing that's very large. Keep getting Washington Monument overlay. It's like an obelisk. This overlay thing is very interesting to me. It's almost like his mind is trying to put things he's familiar with over these unfamiliar things he's seeing.
Yeah.
Alright, move from this point then. Let us move to another point. Move now to 35.26 north, 213.24 east. It's like I'm in the middle of a huge circular basin. Of the range mountains by almost all the way around. Very ragged mountains, very tall. Basin's very, very, very large. Scale seems to be off or something. It's just really big. Everything's big. I understand the problem. Just continue. See just a right angle corner to something, but that's all. I don't see anything else. Okay, then let's move into a little different place, very close. Move from the point you are now in this time to 34.6 north, 213.09 east. The cluster of squares, up and down, it's like you want to make them square anyway. They're almost flush with the ground, and it's like they're connected. Something very white, or reflects light. What's your position of observation as you look at this thing that reflects light? I'm amid a oblique left angle. Sun is weird. Look back down at the ground now, and we're going to move just a little bit from this place. Just a little bit from this place. 34.57 north, 212.22 east. It's like I can just perceive like a radiating pattern of some kind. It's like some really strange intersecting kind of roads that are dug into valleys, you know, where a road is just a little below the edge. Tell me about the shapes of these things. They're like real neat channels cut. They're very deep. It's like the road went down. Okay, now I notice electrically you're nulled out a little bit, and I want you to stay deep and recapture your focus here. So now he's getting disinterested a little bit, and it is kind of frying the chip, as it was said in the excerpt that I read in the beginning of the stream. It's really tough. It seems like it's just always very sporadic. So he's saying like the images are kind of coming and going. I realize that. It's very important that you maintain your focus. I have a movement exercise again for you, and this is some considerable distance away. So holding the focus in time, remember the focus in time that you had before, and moving now to 15 degrees north, 198 degrees east. Take some time and get back deep. See the intersecting whatever these are aqueduct type things, these rounded bottom carved channels, like road beds. See pointed tops of something on the horizon. Even the horizon looks funny and weird. It's like different, misty, like it's really far away, very vague. Okay, another movement now to 80 degrees south, 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east, 64 degrees east. See pyramids. Can't tell if it's overlay or not because they're different. So he's saying that he's seen pyramids, but he can't tell if it's an overlay of like the pyramids he's familiar with, is what I'm getting. Just like he was seeing the Washington Monument over this other obelisk, he's seeing like, you know, the Great Pyramid over this thing that he's seeing as a pyramid, but he's saying it's different.
Yeah.
Okay, do these pyramids have insides and outsides? Got both, and they're huge. It's really, it's an interesting perception I'm getting. The monitor here, it says it in parentheses, so this wasn't said out loud, but it was in the notes. I think that he's losing his ability to move accurately, but he is attracted to things that are interesting. So we're going to go with his own. We're going to let him go ahead and explore what seems to be interesting to him, rather than move on to the targets indicated here. So now that he can tell the subject is losing interest, he's letting the subject kind of do what he wants so that he can maintain it as long as possible. Subject says it's filtered from storms or something. Say that again, subject. They're like shelters from storms about this pyramid structure. These structures you're saying? Yes, they're designed for that. Alright, go inside one of these and find some activity to tell me about. We're at 37 minutes into the exercise now. Different chambers, but they're almost stripped of any kind of furnishings or anything. It's like a strictly functional place for sleeping. Or that's not a good word. Hibernations. Some form... I get real raw inputs. Storms. Savage storms. And sleeping through storms. Tell me about the ones who sleep through the storms. Very tall. Again, very large people. But they're thin. They look thin because of their height, and they dress like in... oh hell. It's like a real light silk. But it's not the flowing type of clothing. It's like cut to fit. Move close to one of them and ask them to tell you about themselves. They're ancient people. They're dying. It's past their time or age. Tell me about this. They're very philosophic about it. They're looking for a way to survive, and they just can't. 40 minutes in, definite voltage reversal, the monitor says, in parentheses. I'm not sure what that means.
What does that mean? So, yeah, like,
I don't know.
Why are we talking about voltage now?
I think it's talking about... because...
The neuron input.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, before...
So
I
they
forget
were
where
like
it said
monitoring this guy's
it
brain?
said something alluding to that earlier on. I wanted to
electric
find
stuff.
where it said that, but I'm not sure. Because he was talking about electrical inputs.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I'm talking about on the chart.
In the
bro, the
dude's
brain's
brain.
So, the subject says, can't seem to get their way out. They can't seem to find their way out. So they're hanging on while they look or wait for something to return or something coming with the answer. What is it they're waiting for? There evidently was a group or party of them that went to find the new place to live. It's like I'm getting all kinds of overwhelming input of the corruption of their environment. It's failing very rapidly, and this group went somewhere, like a long way, to find another place to live. What was the cause of the atmospheric disturbance or the environment disturbance? I see a picture of like a, oh hell, it's almost like a warp in a, oh god, this is difficult. It's like going, let's see, the raw data. Oh, I get a globe. It's like a globe that goes through a comet tail, or it's through a river of something, but it's all very cosmic. It's like space pictures. So now we got a warp in space.
He'd be going through hyperspace.
40K real.
Lord of
Anyway.
the Rings real, 40K real.
Lord of the Rings is.
All right. Now, before you leave this individual, ask him if there's any way ask him if he knows who you are, and is there any way you can help him in his present predicament. All I get is that they must just wait. Doesn't know who I am. Think he perceives I'm a hallucination or something. Very interesting here. And once again, we were talking about how, like, it seems like they're communicating with points of consciousness. It's almost like the subject is coming through the psyche of this being who interprets it as like thoughts from their own mind.
Yeah, and like what I was gonna say was, so basically these aliens or whatever these are, living on Mars millions of years ago, they're dying out because their environment's failing, so they're just trying to hibernate until another group of them finds another planet to live on.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
And they think they're schizophrenic because they're fucking talking to the space ghosts.
Yep.
So it's like the ending of the Martian Chronicles to a T.
This is literally the Martian Chronicles, guys.
I
I don't know that movie.
So
feel like I've heard this before.
There's a scene where, well, the Martians take whatever form is in your mind. So there's a Benedictine monk, and the Martian goes to visit him, but the Martian takes on the form of Christ after the crucifixion, and the Martian starts bleeding from the wounds.
Oh God.
Pretty
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, monitor. Okay, when the others left, these people are waiting. When the others left, how did they go? Get an impression of, don't know what the hell it is. It looks like the inside of a larger boat. Very rounded walls and shiny metal. Go along with them on their journey and find out where it is they go. Impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes and gas pockets and strange plants. Very volatile place. It's very much like going from the frying pan into the fire. Difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where the other place did not have it. And different kind of storms. It sounds just like warp storms and shit like that. 40K.
Yeah,
Man,
I wonder
so
if
weird.
the storms were some kind of weapon that was used on them.
Monitor. All right, it's time to come back now to the sound of my voice, into present time, to right now, the 22nd of May, 1984, the sound of my voice. Move now back to the room, back to the sound of my voice, back further now to the sound of my voice on the 22nd of May, 1984. That's it. It's the released FOIA document by the CIA on the exploration of Mars, baby.
39
Oh,
years
this
ago.
thing is like schizoing me out. Like I had a fucking weird
We've
thing
never viewed
when you said
before.
that.
I've never viewed Martians or nothing like that, but I've like seen some other shit.
How would you know, dude? How would you know what they were?
Well, I don't think it was Martians.
Basically, when you said May 22nd, 1984, I got like this weird mental image of like this gray office room. I don't know why.
I did too. That's weird.
That's weird. Yeah, that's fucking strange. Holy
That is the
shit.
vibe this whole thing gives off, though.
Yeah.
It's like a sanitary,
Yeah,
very
screaming
cold
right now?
room.
What are we reading about here?
We're streaming about remote viewing. We kind of just finished. How do you feel about remote viewing, dude? What are you remote viewing these days?
Give me the rundown on it. What's remote viewing?
When you can see something, but you're not physically there. You see it in your mind. You took yourself there. You seen it.
I do that all the time. I always see the back of my head when I'm working, dog.
You fucking disassociate, Pangus?
Yeah, all the time, dude.
I do that too. I zoom out into third person.
That's basically what you have described.
Bro, the first time I went third person, I was not happy.
Dude, well that just means you're I know, that's what it means, is that you're not happy if you're doing that shit, dude. If you just go about your day like watching yourself and you're not even in your body.
Yeah, I basically play Sims. That's what you're describing to me, essentially.
Disassociation, brother. I've done it many times. What Chat got to say about this shit, dog?
Biscuits and gravy. What do you think about that?
Biscuits and gravy that made me a man.
I just shitted out a bunch of biscuits and gravy. How does that make you feel, little Dottie?
Little Donnie.
So Mal Fuller in the chat says Mars was the last stronghold of the old ones who are like dragons. Once again, 40K is real. Tell me where to find information on that, honestly, because I want more of that. That sounds cool. Yeah.
It's H.P. Lovecraft.
Wow, it's all real. Is what we're saying. It's
It's
all
all
channeled
real.
work.
I wonder if
Mario-
H.P. Lovecraft was a remote.
What was that guy's cat's name? I forget.
Dude, this whole thing was
No,
remote.
he was babysitting for someone else.
Oh, my cat's named Nagy Cat. I love her.
Actually, I lied. I don't have any sausage. This is a dark day.
I got a sausage.
We're going with
Time to
the
disassociate.
we're going with the take that
Yeah,
like
I
your
just said
Tolkien, your Lovecraft, your all this stuff is basically like accidentally remote viewed. They, the blanks are filled in by stuff that's cool, stuff that's thematic or whatever.
What about-
literarily.
Like
I mean, it
Outer
goes back to
Scrolls
the ideas
Morrowind.
of ideas manifesting
Like
themselves.
the 16.
Can you do it
left
when you're
and 5
sleeping,
echo
like
that.
dreaming? Can you
I
put
think
on
so.
clothes?
Yes, they say that's definitely something that happens. There is another thing. I have a tendency to always kind of dream about the same place. I'm always in the same place and ain't here, and I'm doing specific things that make sense in that place.
There's a hell house I dream
The
about.
fact is, like, just like you can remote view Mars a million years ago, I think you can essentially remote view and experience other dimensions. And that's the other thing is, like, just like this is talking about those points of consciousness that you were influenced by, like, you might be living the lives of other people a million years in the future or the past.
I have places I like to go when I sleep sometimes, like certain dreams. I can like return to an area that I remember.
I'm always in the same place. It feels like
There's two
it's
dreams.
very different than
I mean,
life.
I have
don't
another
know.
experience. But
Man,
I don't know what this was.
Crazy
but I
dreams,
was-
bro.
Yeah, but I mean, it was kind of a dream, but it kind of wasn't. I went to sleep, and this was like, I didn't even have anything that was psychoactive. But I went to sleep real late one night because I'd stayed up like the night before, like fucking around on Fallout 4 after it had just came out, and I went to bed about 5 that morning, and my parents got up or whatever, and were getting ready to go to work or whatever, and I was, still in college, so I was like slacking and not getting up till around 10, and as I went to sleep, I drifted off. I could feel like my consciousness like drifting away. Somehow I was up out of my bed and through my closed door and was watching my parents getting ready for work. And then all of a sudden I kind of felt like, wait a minute, I'm still in the bed. And then I like opened my eyes and I'm in the bed. And that was yeah.
Dream stories suck. They're the worst, dude. You got one? Hit me.
Yeah, well, I have 2 Hell House stories. The house I grew up in, I'll fucking dream about regularly, but I go back and it's like everything's rotted and fucking there's like food that we left there fucking 10 years ago still rotting like in the sink and shit. That's a common one. And then there's this like white mansion house I've been dreaming about since I was a kid where like the rooms like shift and you'll have like fucking stairways that lead to like nowhere or like little crevices you have to crawl through to get to a door and shit. I want to know what's up with that hell house, why I'm haunted by it.
Spooky. It sounds like you're in your own mind crawling around the cobwebs.
It's
know.
what it feels like, honestly.
I would never crawl around in the cobwebs. I just simply would refuse to.
I hate
So,
that.
Scarby in the chat, YouTube didn't notify me. They didn't notify him. That's true. It's true.
You're not just constantly 24/7 watching the channel to see when he goes live. Like, are you even a fan?
You gotta have,
even a true.
look, the key is to have 220 tabs open at once. 20 of them are my channel, and the other ones are just porn. Yep.
Black on white.
It's gonna be AI generated.
Dog, look, we got slim pickings these days. There's a ton of porn, but you either have to watch brother and sister fuck, or it has to be interracial. You don't really have any other options at this point.
They do be pushing both of those things.
I do. They sure do. It's pretty fucked up.
Obvious at this point.
Pretty fucked up, dude. You start. I don't want to go into the rabbit hole. So, I'll go. Look, most holes I'll go into. The rabbit hole in this one, I don't.
I would never enter a rabbit hole. That's just simply too far for me.
Well, I mean, it's too small. You'll get stuck.
Reptile in the chat.
That's literally what I just said.
Reptile in the chat says, "Yup, the Emperor slayed a dragon on Mars, but it was a Catan, I believe, one of those things that eat suns and trick the Necrons." That sounds about right, but they refer to it as the Void Dragon, I believe.
Right, a void dragon is not a Catan. It's been retconned to be a Catan because it's funny, but it's like in the center of Mars now, like Primus with him being Cybertron.
Love Primus.
They do be slapping.
I would never slap the base.
Slap on
I just
the
simply
base.
would refuse to.
See it.
I would never look like a plastic cowboy playing the bass.
Avocado adorable, and it's avocado door. I can never say this shit.
I
Sound like
I
a
would
retard.
simply just be the walrus.
This idea will brain fuck Pope, is said by Avocado Adorable in chat. I agree.
It's true.
I exist to brain fuck Pope.
We need to go fuck the Pope with this information.
Come here, Pope.
Come here, baby. Oh boy.
Come here, Francis. He's like trying to get away. He's like
Oh.
stumbling over the
Oh.
furniture.
He's trying to get to the
word
Pope
was
desperately.
He's like,
Pope.
Gun in there.
Poop, give me money. That's what I say. I say, Poop, give me money. And he does. Because I converted to Catholicism under false pretenses.
I'm seeing
So he owes you a
porcelain,
rebate?
giant brown figure dropping towards me.
Oh no.
giant.
Monitor. Get closer.
It's
You're hitting
George
it.
Floyd.
Hearing flushing.
I'm
sound.
seeing
no.
interracial stepdaughter porn.
Big brown nose,
interracial
big
stepdaughter
lips.
poop.
Oh God. Stretching,
Oh, no.
sticking his head inside of her.
Yes, I'm seeing a man stick his entire head inside a
Just
vagina.
raw data.
I'm
Just
looking
the,
at
The comment section says it's made of rubber, but I don't believe it. It's too graphic.
just the raw data. Okay.
Just the raw data.
Just the raw data.
Don't try to make sense of what you're seeing. Just the raw data.
Yeah. Monitor. Yes. Stop reading. Stop.
We have new coordinates.
The raw data.
We got new coordinates. We're gonna go to efuck.com in fucking the year of 2015.
2 grades.
That guy was pretty
1
much
cup.
telling him I wouldn't worry about it.
Two great. Two Palladians, one ship.
He's like, no, I wouldn't worry about it. I just want the fucking data.
So could I use this power to contact a Palladian GF?
Bro, stop
did an
trying
entire-
to import foreign women.
We did it. It's true. That's true. But also, we did an
I can
entire
afford
fucking
the
show
last-
about how you can fucking psychically contact UFOs, dude. Little
Well, I
Pop
know
Tart.
UFOs, but I don't want to just contact the Greys. The Greys aren't very.
You don't get to choose who you contact unless you're actually like good at what you're doing. Otherwise, you're just going willy nilly into the fire,
I don't
dude.
want that Grey Ussy. I want
just
the
want to
place.
view people taking shits
I would use a gray like a fleshlight.
from the throat.
Using-
Ah!
I would make it push my wheelchair.
Excellent.
Aren't they like?
no.
Come on, Gray. We're gonna go watch interracial stepdaughter porn.
Alright. You pussy. Sorry, your race is dying out, but you gotta watch this, buddy.
I don't.
Part of the whole shtick.
I heard they have
How we
DSL.
feel.
Greens fucking the grays.
DSL.
The Greys. The Greys. The Greys.
Nice lush.
The reptilians are with the Greys. That's what their version of it is.
Disgusting.
Fucking stupid.
The lusty Argonian maid.
The lusty Argonian mate.
Oh,
Shit's
man,
so wrong. She's so hot.
What else we got to talk about? Someone give me something to fucking ramble about. Running out of steam here.
We have the wizard in the laboratory.
Dude, you want to do that? That sounds like fun. How long is that?
It's only a page. I mean,
Awesome.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Let me locate it. Let me locate it. I don't know where it is. Where the fuck was that? I sent you the link, right? We got the wizard in the laboratory, baby. Oh yeah, I put it in here.
What he be cooking in there?
Magician walks in.
Where the hell did I post that? Paranormal.
It's the meth wizard. He's cooking for all of Florida.
Actually, sorry, it's 9 pages.
9 pages? Jesus Christ, man!
That's a lot of fucking.
That's kind of a big
That's fine. I
discrepancy
don't
between
give
1
a
and
crap,
9.
dude. I'll read
I
it.
don't care. They're
Jesus,
both
I'm
fake.
having a hard time finding it.
I got a good video we could watch.
Is it fucking octopus girl?
Magician walks into laboratory. What's the punchline to this joke?
Uh,
I already posted.
falling
God
rocks. Lightning bolt. Lightning bolt.
Classified,
Favorite
unclassified,
Pokemon
translation,
video.
approved for release in 2000. Here we go, baby. Magician walks into the laboratory. Abstract. Dear editors, I am construction engineer, A. Rafaelian, and I'm writing you from the sunny state, Georgia. I lived in Tbilisi and have now been listening for several years to various oral sources of stories about a certain A. Krivrolatov, some shit, who was somehow successfully healing patients by the laying on of hands. Now, this doesn't seem to be like a specific government thing. I don't think this doesn't seem like it was written by anyone in the government at all. So I know a lot of the times, like, things wind up, you know, in these fucking FOIA documents and shit. Like, that's where, like, Hillary Clinton having emails about Nephilim came from. Like, someone, like, emailed a link to her about some random crap that was in a FOIA document. And it wasn't written by government sources or anything like that. So I don't want to give the wrong idea. Sources.
Oh yeah, I forgot that last one was a FOIA request, huh?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. I also heard that this self-educated magician was investigated by various specialists, in particular the inventors, Mr. and Mrs. Kirlian, and that somehow the secrets of his miracle working hands, has been divine. Is this true or not? Couldn't you tell of this healer in greater detail? The mechanic, S. Kirlian, was working in one of the Krasnodar hospitals. One evening, he was servicing a high-frequency current generator and noticed that the discharge between his palm and the generator electrode was not at all the same as that between his forearm and the same device. Was this accidental? It would be well to register, for example, photograph this strange phenomenon. But how? Under bright illumination, the discharges would simply become invisible. It was then that the inventor decided to do without a camera. I don't know what this is talking about. Let's figure this out, boys. And there on the table lay an insulator. Something's redacted there. Some sheet. And on it, there was an electrode consisting of a metal plate. A glass photographic plate lay on the electrode. Having stepped onto a rubber sheet and thereby insulating himself from the floor, Kirlian connected the second electrode to the back of his hand, the biological object, and pressed his palm against the photoemulsion. In case of emergency, the inventor called a medical student and then threw the switch and connected himself into the high-frequency circuit. A sharp jolt. The frightened student opens the circuit and the plate is developed. A fuzzy picture is obtained, but the silhouette of the hand is clearly visible on it, and the white bones are traced out against the background of the fingers. However, this is not an X-ray, but a photograph of a biological object in a field of RF currents. I don't know what any of this means.
Radio frequency current?
Yeah, well, doesn't really help me.
I don't know what the fuck's going on, dude.
The first foggy photograph of an unknown world were just as fuzzy as conventional photographs which have been taken out of focus. Here the role of the focal distance is played by the discharge gap, those 2 to 3 hundredths of a millimeter which separate the investigated object from the light-sensitive plate. But how to produce such a small gap and how to maintain such accuracy? So now, the photograph of an unknown world.
He found an anomaly, I think, within like some kind of, I don't know.
And then we're talking about faith healing. I'm just so confused. Can someone research this? Google this? Find an article or some shit that explains this shit? The magician walks in. Search magician walks into the laboratory FOIA. FOIA. And someone surely will be talking about it. S. Kirlian performed a massive experiment together with his wife. There were hardly any contrivances they didn't resort to. They placed a thin cloth between the object and the photoplate. They obtained clear pictures, but with the traces of the threads. The cloth was replaced by metal foil. However, the material turned out to be stiff and non-compliant, and micron gaps did not come out at all. And then the inventors made the electrode a water electrode. The backside of the photoemulsion was wetted with a wet piece of cotton and became current conducting. It is difficult to tell all the investigations which Mr. and Mrs. Kirlian carried out before they obtained clear photographs. 17 patents confirmed their leadership in this new field. Thus, a window was opened to a hitherto unknown world. What is it that could be seen through it?
Was this in 1939, roughly?
I have no idea. Maybe I could figure that out.
Well, there's Kirlian photography, which is a technique used to capture the phenomenon of electrical coronal charges. It's named after Semyon Kirlian.
Yeah, that's what this is.
Who actually discovered that if an object on a photographic plate is connected to a high voltage source, an image is produced on the photographic plate. The technique has been variously known as...
Speak up!
The technique has been variously known as electrography, electrophotography, corona discharge photography. So it's just a way of like, I don't.
Okay.
You can see
We're getting there. I see where this is going. One time, botanists asked the inventors to photograph 2 identical-looking leaves from the same plant. The images of the electrical space of the green twins turned out to be completely different. Only then did the phytopathologist discover what the secret was. Not any of the leaves had been torn off the branch contaminated with microorganisms, while the other had been torn off from a healthy branch. But this is what was curious. The infection was in no way manifested externally right up until the death of the 6 leaves. But photographing in a field of RF currents immediately revealed the physiological maladjustment that were hidden from the eyes. In the same way, it was possible successfully to register the earliest stages of pathological processes in apples, tobacco, grapes, and not only in plants. Electrical photographs of sick human organs, for example during spasms of the blood vessels, look different than photographs of healthy organs. The nervous activity of the subject also makes its imprint against the fiery panorama of live sparks. The author of these lines drank a glass of wine to toast the flowering of science. The Kirlians, having connected me into the RF loop, immediately discovered this act according to the changed topography scheme of the discharges. So this is saying the electrical photograph it takes, I don't even know. So like it's not an image in like the traditional sense, right?
Right.
So
like an MRI.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be, an MRI based on, but I don't know if that's actually what
I don't
it is.
think so. I don't think
It's
so, dude.
the actual images. They have like a whole demonstration on Wikipedia like that, like the whole discharge plate, insulator, glass, and all that shit.
Now, I'm just waiting for where this connects with the faith healing and the laying of hands that it was talking about initially.
It does say it has a parapsychology research and art like connected to it. So
the most ridiculous rumors circulated concerning the work of the Kirlians. So far, no comprehensive monographs devoted to their discovery have been published. That sounds like a sentence fragment. Thus, a 100-fold repeated rumor is stated that somehow the Krasnodar experimentalists have been able to photograph a mysterious luminescence, maybe even a sign of holiness, a halo that a person is supposed to emit. Okay, so that's kind of actually what I was getting out of this. It's going into like auras and stuff like that.
yeah, and the pictures that you can see on the Wikipedia article, there is like some cool stuff going on.
And then somehow,
I don't know if you could take one picture twice. I don't think you could do that, even if it was the exact same.
Post a couple in Bar and Grill, Doug, so I can use them. And then somehow, late one autumn evening, 3 years ago, late in an autumn evening, a man knocked on the door of the inventors, Mr. and Mrs. Kirlian. His name was A. Kirvaratov, and he was from Tbilisi. He announced that some understandable force emanated from him, and he would like to discover its secret. It turned out that Kirvaratov had discovered in himself the capacity to be a healer. He heals by the old benevolent method of the laying of hands. For example, a patient comes to him and complains of a pain in the loins. Kirvaratov concentrates, goes into a trance, stretches out his hands, and approaches the patient. Another instant, and the patient fearfully flinches from the burn, in quotes. It is literally as if a hot, dry compress had been applied to the loins. This unpleasant... that sounds dope. This unpleasant sensation does not go away after that for the whole night. Sometimes an invisible heating pad aids. Kirlian connected Kirvaratov into the RF tank circuit. By the way, this operation is completely painless, and placed his finger under a microscope. The guest looked into the eyepiece and was shaken. From the pores and channels of his skin, protuberances were fiercely billowing. Whole schools of amoeba, in quotes, were creeping from place to place, first merging together into one blazing bonfire and then splitting up into pieces. Man, that is reality right there. That's how reality works, Maud. God damn it.
No, it isn't.
They merge together into one blazing bonfire, and then they split up into pieces, dude. That's what they do. Kirvaratov carefully took out his finger and looked at it. Nothing. Again, he put his finger under the eyepiece, but the picture had changed radically. Now orange, violet, blue stars were scintillating, baby. You're upset. This has changed the electrical state of your organism. And the skin is a kind of mirror that reflects the internal bioelectric processes, Kirlian explained while looking into the microscope. Weeks of strange experiments began in which both the magician and the experimentalist himself were the subjects. Kirvorotov put his hand quite close to Kirlian's head and literally poured hot lead over him. However, he didn't say anything and didn't look into his eyes. This means there cannot even be any talk of hypnosis. The heavy sensation did not leave Kirlian all night, and it was as if his head was on fire. He was trying to think of where the energy could have come from. After all, Kirvorotov was not some kind of living generator, and even the guest himself acknowledged that while giving off energy, he did not feel fatigue. Literally poured hot lead over him. I don't understand what the hell.
Like fine, yeah. It's like reminds me of like the old like a Buddhist stuff.
He was trying to put it into his pee hole.
Yeah, except for it to be mercury.
The next day, Kirlian photographed fingers, his own and that of the magician, in the high-frequency field. One could clearly see how the luminescence bent around the biological object separately. There was no doubt both fingers were charged with electricity of the same sign. But what makes the touch of Kirvorotov cause the sensation of heat? This is just the point, sensation. In transmitting heat, one expends energy. After all, sensation can be produced almost without energy by transmitting simply information. And what do the experiments say? Kirlian checked the dielectric properties of the skin on Kirvorotov's hands. God. This is the point. The resistance was 3 to 5 times higher than the usual value. Of course, the dry, rough skin of the hands of a person occupied with heavy physical labor may have such properties, but after all, the palms of the Tbilisi magician were pink, soft, just like a baby's. It is of interest as to how the guest is charged while being locked up in the bathroom before each seance. The experimentalist photographed the fingers of Kirvorotov before his preparation in the bathroom and afterwards. On the first photograph, there was the conventional distribution of the something's weighted out there, potentials of a healthy person, while on the second, many potential something blanked out had vanished, as if the electrical conductivity had been lost. The pattern of the protuberances had likewise changed radically. A gold flame bubbled madly against a black background, as if it were breaking through an invisible barrier. The experimentalist assumed that in preparing for the procedure, Kirvorotov rubbed his hands with some substance, probably azocerite, in order to increase the dielectric resistance of the skin. The mechanism by which the healing procedure of the magician operates appears to us to be the following. The body of any person situated in the Earth's electrostatic field is charged negatively. Since the skin of the fingers and palm of the magician was, as it were, covered with a mutual dielectric glove, a potential of any sign may be induced on it. During the procedure, while healing hands are placed on the head or body of the patient, the electrical charges of the patient's body excite or polarize positive charges that are equal in magnitude but opposite in sign on the glove. An electric field is formed between the skin on Kirvorotov's hands and the skin of the patient. This field has an intensity which increases as the spacing decreases. The electrons and ions situated in the air gap tend to move toward the photoelectrodes. The positive ones move toward the skin of the patient, Kirlian, while the negative ones move toward Kirvorotov's hands. The ion flux blows past and at times heats the sick organ and stimulates its recovery. In a word, the same thing occurs as in the ionic Charcot shower. Dearsonalization or some shit, and the other similar methods of electrical healing, which are used extensively in modern medicine. So it sounds a lot like traditional Chinese medicine to me, things like acupuncture. It's very interesting. I wonder how these things are exactly connected to like chi and like prana and things like that.
Yeah, like all this, I mean, fucking strange. I got a lot of like the Buddhist vibes out of the fucking like hot lead being poured on that guy and he not feeling it.
This is what may be
The
assumed for the
hands of
time
the
being.
king are healing.
True. Much is
One of the
still...
last chapters of The Return of the King, Aragorn comes into the houses of healing in Gondor. And he
Love it,
heals
dude.
the rest of the party. Jesus had the same thing. Places his hands on the crippled.
Yep. This is what may be assumed for the time being. Much is still ununderstood. It is far from clear as to whether or not the dielectric plays such an important role in the healing procedure of the magician. After all, the healer, regardless of the apparent complete exposure, steadfastly insists on the purity of his seances. Kirlian repeatedly attempted to repeat the focus of Kirvarotov, but alas, unsuccessfully. The action of one person on another at a distance via a field so far remains a puzzling phenomenon of nature. Recently, Professor of Leningrad University, P. Pulyov, demonstrated that our body generates and possibly perceives an electric field. And concerning the fact that a person senses an electromagnetic field and an ordinary magnetic field, has been known for a long time. The question arises, does not the magician change the information processes in the organism of the patient who feels heat through the ether? In order to answer this and other such questions, further investigations that are carried out at a higher level are required. How much more else we got? A little more. Yeah, I want to find. There is a CIA document, some FOIA thing that talks about what is it, like telekinesis and bioluminescence, and I want to find that. I don't know if I can or not. I would look up like CIA, FOIA, bioluminescence, telekinesis. I had a hard time finding it, so I don't know if you're going to. I wasn't able to find it last time I looked. On the way to solving a puzzle, to make a judgment concerning the internal processes in an organism solely according to the NRF photograph is the same as conceiving the exterior of a person from his X-ray. It is quite possible that the mechanism of healing is completely different. In June of last year, I met Krivolodov. At my request, he demonstrated his effect on me. Actually, when the magician slowly moved his hands along my body, a sensation of heat developed, corresponding to a temperature of 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. Also, acupuncturist John Chang. We've shown that video a million times, where like he sets a newspaper on fire with his hands. And he'd be able to kind of like electrocute someone by touching him. He would like zap people just as a demonstration. Same thing, it sounds like. But this is the catch. The burning was felt even when the healing hands were located comparatively far from me at a distance of 5 to 10 centimeters. It is clear that in such a situation there cannot be any discussion of ion bombardment, which operates only for micron gaps. It remains for us to draw an uncomfortable conclusion. The procedure of healing by laying on of hands is considerably more complicated than would appear at first glance. Recently, in the Japanese journal Radio, Television, and Electronics, November 1966, a letter from a Dr. Uchida appeared. He was an electronics engineer by profession. He described his investigation of a Mrs. Yamada who can heal with her hands at a distance. The scientists measured the electrical resistance between points of the skin which had an increased conductivity. These points coincided with the acupuncture points, once again. In European countries, they are called acupuncture points. In Japan, they are called tsubo. Okay. So, there's a bunch of stuff here that I can barely read. Tsubo, during a seance of healing with hands... What is all of this? Should I even bother trying to read this? Dependence of the electrical resistance of Tsubo on the physiological state of the corresponding internal organs. R equals R1 minus R2, where R1 and R2 are the resistances between symmetrical points in the forehead in reverse directions. S is the number of Tsubo connected during a seance of healing with hands. It sounds like it's like a polarity thing. like a balance thing. I don't know.
Mm.
2 and 3 are the Yamada curves before and after healing. 1 and 4 are the curves for the patient before and after healing. There should be a figure that goes along with that. I don't think we have access to it. A study of the electrical characteristics of these points has begun recently. But acupuncture therapy is an efficient healing method and has existed in China for several thousand years. In 1963, the Bulletin of the Academy of Medical Sciences of the Korean People's Democratic Republic published a paper on the Kenrak systems. The Kenrak system, a scientific research team headed by Professor Kim Bon-han, discovered a previously unknown substance called Kenrak on the human organism. A unified anatomohistological, holy shit, anatomohistological system, distinguished both from the nervous system and from the blood and lymph vessels. Using a luminescent microscope, a successful investigation was made of the microstructure of the Kenrak system, consisting of so-called Von Han, named after the scientist, corpuscles, and the Von Han tubes, which link them. It is specifically the Kenrak system, according to the data of Korean scientists, which is what connects the acupuncture points to the internal organs. This is the first point. The second point, Japanese scientists measured the electrical resistance. So I don't have any of the figures that go along with that. So, yeah. What did that say?
The article I sent you with the bioluminescence, I feel like it's the same thing as what you just kind of went through. And the
Nice.
The text just hurts your eyes.
Well, that's fine.
It's the FOIA, they just want you to, like, hate yourself.
Yeah, I think this is exactly right. I think. Let's keep this rolling. Let's keep this rolling, boys. On to the new CIA document here from July 1972. ESP and Psychokinesis. The reader, by this time, has realized that it is very difficult to speak of one area of psychic phenomenon without overlapping into other areas. There really can be no distinct separation. For example, between apports and certain aspects of telepathy, hypnosis also enters into this area. In an attempt to illustrate the various subjects in parapsychology, however, artificial sections were established. This is the reason for a separate part in apports and ESP. Some aspects of hypnosis, depending on its ultimate use, falls within parapsychology, some areas into medicine. Therefore, hypnosis is presented as a separate section outside of this parapsychology discussion. Soviet research in ESP was started in the 20s at Leningrad University by V.M. Bekhterev. In his early work, Bekhterev collaborated with V.L. Durov to investigate the effects of mental suggestion on a group of performing dogs. It was believed that telepathic communication depended on electromagnetic radiation. Once again, it sounds like we're talking about this electric field that all people have. Frankly, like, this is stuff in my Agora readings, this is explained very clearly. So if you go back and read the first Agora book, or you listen to my audiobook, like, this stuff is all explained. It's only new to Westerners, dude. Only new to us. Dr. L.L. Vasilev, shown in an illustration at the Bekhterev Brain Institute, that's where I want to work, that sounds awesome, set out to identify these electromagnetic waves that carry telepathy. By 1937, Vasilev had amassed evidence that known electromagnetic waves do not carry telepathy. Tests were conducted in electrically shielded chambers and over extreme distances, denying the passage of electromagnetic fields. Some of the long-range telepathy experiments have been published, explaining the various techniques employed, including classical tests with Zener cards and more unique tests with strobe lights and codes. Professor L. Vasilev died in late 1965 or early 1966, and the task of continuing telepathy research was taken by Dr. I. Kogan. Dr. Kogan is chairman of the Bioinformation section of the Popov Radio and Technical Institute in Moscow. This individual is still trying to wed telepathy to the electromagnetic spectrum. Discussion as to the existence of telepathy has been bandied about the Soviet Union and elsewhere for some time. For the sake of research, the Soviet Union accepts the validity of ESP, even though the argument as to the mode of transmission continues. Professor E.K. Naumov, chairman of the Division of Technical Parapsychology at the A.S. Popov Institute, mentioned above, conducted long-range telepathy tests from Moscow to several other cities. In 1967, the Soviet Maritime News reported cosmonauts, when in orbit, seemed to be able to communicate telepathically more easily with each other than with people on Earth. A PSI, short for Psychic Faculty Training System, has been incorporated into the cosmonaut training program, but the news provided no further details. Some informal reports relayed to Ostrander and Schroeder indicate that the Soviets are working on PSI systems for space use, involving not just telepathy, but also precognition. As mentioned above, yep, it is. And once again, it's like 40K shit, like they go out into space.
Yeah,
closer to
because
the
I was
warp.
going to say, like, are they using the same, like, remote viewing stuff to, like, try to see where they're going to go to in space?
Like, what is it, navigators?
Yeah, like they have, like, seriously. Same shit.
That is weird.
It sounds like it.
As mentioned above, the Soviets seem preoccupied with the search for energy that carries or facilitates telepathy transmission. Is it electromagnetic or not? The search for this unknown energy has led the Soviets to Kirlian photography, baby. Named after its inventors, Semyon and Valentina Kirlian. I knew this shit was going to be connected. I knew it!
Yeah.
The Kirlians developed a technique of photographing with a high-frequency electrical field involving a specially constructed high-frequency spark generator, tuned up and down between 75,000 and 200,000 electrical oscillations per second. Their first photographs showed turquoise and reddish-yellow patterns or flares coming out of specific channels within leaves. A magnified picture of a finger shows craters of light and flares. By 1960s, research on bioluminescence revealed by Kirlian photography was going on in many Soviet universities. Now, keep in mind, these are like declassified documents from the CIA that are talking about glowing in the dark. Just keep it in mind, yo. It's real, yo. And people, that's what people don't understand. Like, they look at people like Terry A. Davis, and they think it's just like memes and it's just funny stuff. It's like people like that are seers. They're seeing into like another place, another time, and what they get out of it, what they're pulling out of it, isn't necessarily like literally like true to the T, but like they're seeing it in their mind, flavored by their own, perceptions of things. You can talk about those overlays, like the dude seeing the Washington Monument over like the alien obelisk. Like, you can't escape the fact that these things are flavored by your psyche. So you have to fill in gaps sometimes, which makes people sound insane, or it leads to great works of art. But like, there
they
really is truth
stumbled
to
on
it.
something.
This is what shamans are.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, if Terry Davis would have been born in like the Iron Age, he'd be like a shaman or something.
He would be the high priest of the temple that he built.
I would be his bodyguard.
Perfected techniques of photographing the play of high-frequency currents on humans, plants, and animals, as well as on inanimate matter, have set this... And notice inanimate matter. Like, keep in mind here, like, it goes back to me saying that consciousness begets matter. Like, everything is conscious. Like, that's what quantum physics says, that reality requires an observer. But what about the places where there is nothing that we would accept as consciousness? The dark side of the moon, where it's all just dust. Like, does it really exist that there's no conscious observer? Like, the answer is that everything is consciousness. It's all God experiencing himself. So perfected techniques of photographing the play, as well as inanimate matter, have set the Soviets on some striking discoveries about the energetical nature of man. Bioplasma is a term coined by the Soviets for bioluminescent phenomenon or energy. Scientists at the Kazakh State University at Alma-Ata have found that illnesses tend to show up in advance as a disordered play of flares from the bioplasma long before they manifest in the physical body. According to Ostrander and Schroeder, the Soviets may be attempting to link Kirlian photography with computers, among other things, to instantly analyze the spectra of colors appearing in the varicolored flares from the living body. Here we have images of some of the flares.
Weird. Whoa.
Flares of energy from fingers of the left and right hand of an individual by Kirlian photography. Lower photograph shows the fingers of 3 different people. And how the... Hey! What was that? Was that like money I just got? Whatever that was. Oh, we got a sub. That was a subscription, dude. Awesome. Love to see it. Scares the shit out of me every time. Love it. Anyway. Yeah. So there we got the flares, the fibers, weird stuff. The bioluminescence. Dr. A. Podshibayakin, an electrophysiologist at the Institute of Clinical Physiology in Kiev, has found that by charting acupuncture points, a correlation exists between the bioplasma and changes on the surface of the sun. At the exact moment solar flares, sunspots occur, there are changes in the electrical potential of the skin's acupuncture points. These electrical charges are measured by a toboscope, probably a simple Wheatstone bridge device? I don't know. In some way, the bioplasma of the body is sensitive to these solar explosions the instant they occur, even though it takes about 2 days for the cosmic particles to reach the Earth. The most significant use of Kirlian photography is in the area of psychokinesis or mind over matter. Dr. Gennady Sergeyev of the Tomsky Military Institute in Leningrad believes Kirlian photography may uncover the mechanism of PK. So psychokinesis is what that means. Sergeyev is a prominent mathematician for the Soviet military who works closely with an electrophysiologist from the University of Leningrad, Dr. L. Pavlova. Sergeyev has devised important mathematical and statistical methods for analyzing the EEG, which allowed parapsychologists to follow and depict the actions of telepathy in the brain. The type of work reported by Sergeyev in 1967 and 1968 is just now beginning to appear in the U.S. efforts to understand the transmission of telepathy. Sergeyev has conducted several years of intensive lab research on the outstanding PK psychic in Leningrad, Nina Kulagina. Illustration 4 is a photograph of Dr. G. Sergeyev, and illustration 5 is a photograph of Kulagina. Sergeyev registered heightened biological luminescence radiating from Kulagina's eyes during the apparent movement of objects by psychokinesis. Sergeyev postulates that the bioplasma of the human body must interact with the environment to produce PK. Sergeyev emphasizes when target objects are placed in a vacuum, Kulagina is unable to move them. Barkas in the United States reports some unusual occurrences during psychic photography, especially of the eyes. Reportedly, Kulagina has caused the movement of a wide range of non-magnetic objects under strict scientific control: large crystal bowls, clock pendulums, bread, matches, etc. In one test, a raw egg was placed in a salt solution inside a sealed aquarium 6 feet away from her. Researchers report she was able to use PK to separate the yolk from the white of the egg. Observations by Western scientists of Mrs. Kulagina's PK ability has been reported with verification of her authentic ability. These same Western scientists have reported that as of February 1971, they have not been able to visit or observe Mrs. Kulagina. A veil of secrecy has been placed on Sergeyev and Mrs. Kulagina for unknown reasons. Rather than simply observing PK, the Soviets typically turned to instrumentation. Mrs. Kulagina was subjected to a number of physiological electronic measuring devices and tested for important body functions during her PK demonstrations. The Soviets found that at the moment an object begins to move, all of Mrs. Kulagina's body processes speed up drastically. Heart, breathing, brain activity, and the electromagnetic fields around her body all begin to pulse in rhythm. Soviet researchers postulate that it was these rhythmic vibrations that cause objects to be attracted or repelled to her. Illustration 6 shows a photographic sequence of Kulagina's PK ability. Space does not permit a discussion on other important parapsychological phenomena, such as eyeless sight, which appeared to be more of a fad than anything else. However, since the mid-60s, the eyeless sight fad has subsided, and serious research has proceeded quietly at the State Pedagogical Institute in Sverdlovsk, off bounds to foreigners. Space, in this report, does not permit a discussion of psychotronic generators, devices which are reported to be able to store human bioplasmic forces for later use. For further reading on ESP, see the non-cited bibliography, yada yada, yada yada. Got some photos here. So, photos taken while Nina was moving a metallic cigar tube around, no doubt.
Whoa.
Can't see the pictures, it's not visible at all.
Yeah, it looks like shit.
Okay. So, I'm back to the Terry Davis thing. It's like, keep in mind, they do glow in the dark, they can read your mind, and they also have telekinesis. Like, these are things that were studied by the CIA, and they were, said to be of no value until they were put as, like, black projects. And, like, this is what they're doing. Promise you that. Like I said, they don't want you to know the nature of reality. They don't want you to know that you can do these things. That would be the worst thing for the
Change
system.
your life.
How we doing, boys? Any input?
I was gonna say, yeah, it's really interesting to see the Soviets were like doing the same kind of experimentation the Germans were, basically at the same time period. This was all taking place in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, I mean, it said that the 20s they began with it, but that all sounds about right. Like, I think a lot of this intelligence stuff, I think, is kind of something that precipitated World War II. Like, there's a lot of things you could say did that, but like it was like a race, a technological race that was going on.
Almost like
technological and psychological, really.
Almost like an occultic Cold War.
Yeah, well, it's, cold until it gets hot.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you have things that branches of the Dual Society and Heinrich Himmler's boys that were trying to literally resurrect the dead. And so that they would have a ghost army.
So what you're telling me is Call of Duty Zombies was almost real.
Yeah, that's where most of the ideas in fiction are real.
Well, that's yet again
getting it.
Exactly. All great fiction, I would say, like, it kind of is like manifestations of things that exist, in our reality at some point, in some place, at some time. Like, we're remembering that stuff.
They're showing you when the military, for example, finances Call of Duty, because they do. They finance all the shooters and keeps that shit in. It's to redirect you in a way that you're still useful to them. You're not befriending the zombie.
You're destroying the zombie.
Right.
Yeah.
Alright. Can you guys, what do we do? You wind this down or what? My dog is barking for me.
We can wind this down.
Cool, I think we're good. I think we're good. Ever remember, I do be having fucking links to donate. Please don't be afraid to do that. It's hard times, Daddy. My teeth hurt, dude. Got no money. My teeth hurt. So if you enjoy what I'm doing at all, donate to me and just let me know. Like, when you're donating, let me know what you like, what you're into. Because if I was getting money, man, I'd read those Agora books every goddamn day of my life. I'll read whatever. Frankly, $20, I'll read anything you want at this point. I'm desperate, dude. I'll read an entire book. Give me $20. I don't give a crap at this point. Kidding me, dude? Yeah, so with that, I guess we'll get the hell out of here. Thank you very much for joining us to go through these declassified documents and such. We're back again soon to talk about all manner of spirit and paranormal and spooky, dude, and the reality of your existence. It's all God. Wherever you look, there is his face. Don't deny it. Don't deny it. Because frankly, if you ain't seeing God in everything you look at, you're about an atheist to me. Hate to say it. But it's true.